Chapter 3:18. This craftsmanship cannot be lost in our hands. This was what Lin Tai often said to Lin Nuo. As a father, how could he not know what his child was thinking? In fact, he was the same when he was young. He felt that since this craftsmanship had been eliminated by time, then what was the point of persisting? At that time, Lin Tai also felt that his father was too pedantic. In this new era, he insisted on old things and would never choose to improve. However, as he grew up and came into contact with this industry more, Lin Tai's thoughts gradually changed. He also understood why his father persisted. The traditional craftsmanship that carried the essence of Chidragon's traditional culture had been passed down for thousands of years. This was also the reason for its existence. This was because behind every piece of work was condensed the vicissitudes of life and the vicissitudes of life. To put it in a big way, it was a kind of persistence and adherence to the tradition. To put it in a small way, it was the spirit of the ancestors passed down from generation to generation. 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, his ancestors were waving the iron hammer just like him now. They were drenched in sweat amidst the sputtering sparks and forged the thrill and excitement of life in the occasional flash of inspiration. This was like a story that was written from the moment it was passed down. It was passed down from generation to generation and continued to be perfected. Lin Tai, who came to his senses, took the initiative to learn the craftsmanship from that moment on. Affection could be applied to people over time, and it was also applied to Lin Tai and his craftsmanship. The more he understood, the more he loved it. When the inheritance was no longer a burden, Lin Tai took over the baton from his father and began to write his own story. This was Lin Tai, a person who seemed old-fashioned to Lin Nuo, but had the most sincere persistence and dream of the inheritor. Lin Tai once had the idea of promoting this craftsmanship. He had put in a lot of effort for this. His figure could be seen on Weibo, live streaming, and other platforms. However, in this impetuous era, the appreciation for the beauty of traditional craftsmanship had long faded. The result of his hard work made Lin Tai very disappointed and depressed. However, his love for the craftsmanship in his hands had never diminished. However, after coming into contact with Battle Online this time, Lin Tai's originally calm heart was once again ignited with the flame that he once had. Tens of millions of players were learning the craftsmanship here. This was something that Lin Tai dared not imagine before, but now it was possible. Although this was a game, after flipping through the Blacksmithing Beginner's Handbook, Lin Tai knew that these techniques really existed. Just like what Lin Nuo said, they could be used in real life. In Lin Tai's eyes, this was an opportunity to bring honor to his ancestors and let people understand the smelting and casting techniques of the Lin clan. After hearing from Lin Nuo that there were 10,000 slots for the class change trial this time, Lin Tai only had one thought. He wanted to be number one. But before that, the first thing he needed to do was level up. After continuously leveling for 11 hours in the Ghost Mountain Range, Lin Nuo was on the verge of tears. Looking at his father who was still full of energy, Lin Nuo really wanted to go to sleep. However, his father did not allow it. "Father, I can't take it anymore, there's still an hour before I'm forced to go offline. How about I take a break first?" Seeing that his father was still looking for monsters, Lin Nuo opened his mouth with a face full of grievance. For Lin Nuo, the beginner monsters in the Ghost Mountain Range gave too little EXP. It was not enough to satisfy his growth. His only purpose here was to help Lin Nuo level up. Originally, he wanted his father to guide him through the class change quest, but he did not expect that his memorizing time would be taken away by his father. If it was someone else, Lin Nuo would have already flipped out. However, this was his father. Lin Nuo did not even dare to have the thought of resisting, and could only serve him. "There's still an hour before you're forced to go offline?" Lin Tai heard this and turned his head to look at Lin Nuo with a frown. "Yes, I'm currently using the virtual reality helmet. There's a mandatory game time limit." Lin Nuo said with a face full of anticipation, waiting for his father's permission. Wait a moment. After saying this, Lin Tai went offline in front of Lin Nuo's shocked expression. Around 5 minutes later, Lin Tai came online again and waved the greatsword in his hand. Let's go, continue killing monsters. Father, I only have half an hour of game time left. No problem, Father just went offline and ordered another gaming cabin. It will be delivered directly from the nearby Black Sea warehouse. The smart delivery car will probably arrive in around an hour. Lin Nuo was speechless. At this moment, Lin Nuo really wanted to yell at his father. Playing with things leads to ambition, but he did not dare to. An hour later, the gaming cabin was delivered to their doorstep. The father and son pair went offline and moved the new gaming cabin into Lin Tai's room. When he came online again, Lin Tai used his own gaming cabin. Thinking of his father's furious expression when he bought the gaming cabin, and then looking at his father's swift and decisive purchase, Lin Nuo felt bitter and wronged. He really wanted to imitate his father and yell at him, but he still did not dare to. With the gaming cabin, the 12-hour game time limit naturally did not exist. Next, Lin Nuo brought his father to sweep through the Ghost Mountain Range, this beginner leveling area. With Lin Nuo, a level 100+ rune master carrying him, Lin Tai's level soared. After 2 days of killing monsters without rest, Lin Tai finally reached level 25, and it was finally time for him to accept the class change quest. At this moment, Lin Nuo finally let out a sigh of relief, feeling that he was free. Beside him, Lin Tai was also very happy. In these 2 days of leveling, Lin Tai also discovered a surprise in the game, which was that he could feel the improvement of his physical fitness when he leveled up in the game. This made him think of the smelt iron into essence tempering technique recorded in the book. Lin Tai had tried this tempering technique when he was young, but found out that it was very difficult to use in actual forging. Just as he explained to Lin Nuo, this tempering technique required one to have great strength. Without the assistance of modern equipment, it was very difficult to achieve, and if one tried forcefully, it would harm one's body. At this moment, Lin Tai, who was already level 25, clenched his fist and felt the surging strength in his body. He felt that with his current strength, he could definitely try this tempering forging technique. After that, Lin Tai and his father returned to the Mansion of the Dead, preparing to try forging. Confirm to activate the class change quest for the life profession Forging Master? Yes. After confirming to activate the class change quest, the forging book, forging hammer, and smelting furnace, these 3 beginner items were sent to Lin Tai's backpack. Looking at the quest description, Lin Tai extended his hand towards Lin Nuo. Dad, what are you doing? Lin Nuo asked, puzzled. Spirit ore. Hearing this, Lin Nuo felt a toothache. At this moment, a game notification appeared in his mind. Frowny face game notification. Your first round of the Forging Masterclass Change quest has not reached 5 pieces of forged iron due to time exhaustion. Failed. F***CK. In these 3 days, he had been accompanying his father to level up, and had even forgotten to do the quest. At this moment, Lin Nuo's heart ached. Fortunately, this quest could be repeated after a day's cooldown. Otherwise, Lin Nuo felt that he would really go crazy. Looking at his father, Lin Nuo sighed in his heart. He took out all the spirit ore from his backpack and gave it to his father. Dad, I'll give it all to you. If it's not enough, I'll go buy more. Lin Tai nodded, and with an excited expression, he summoned the smelting furnace and began forging for the first time in the game. Looking at his father's busy figure, other than helplessness, Lin Nuo felt even more joy in his heart. Because he had already forgotten how long it had been since he saw his father so focused on something. At this moment, Lin Tai seemed to have shed away his old age. His whole body was emitting vitality, and Lin Nuo couldn't help but be stunned. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of hammering was very pleasant to listen to and also very warm. At this moment, Lin Nua's mind couldn't help but recall the tall and sturdy figure in his memory, who was bare-chested and sweating by the furnace. Lin Nua, this old man who was already 30 years old, couldn't help but tear up as he watched from the side. He was very familiar with this kind of attitude. At this moment, Lin Tai was like a dusty treasured sword that had its dust wiped away, and once again displayed its sharp edge. Although many years had passed, it was still as dazzling as before. Lin Tai was very familiar with the smelting technique. He rhythmically hammered the spirit ore, and the sparks that burst forth burned his skin red. However, Lin Tai didn't feel the slightest discomfort, and his eyes were only filled with excitement and nostalgia. After half an hour of hammering non-stop, the impurities were gradually removed, and the shape of the spirit ore continuously shrunk. Ding! After another hammering, a game notification suddenly appeared. Game notification: congratulations on forging 100 skills iron. Using a pair of pliers to pick up the 100 skills iron, Lin Tai's face revealed a trace of a smile. This time, he tried to smelt the spirit ore using the smelt iron into essence method from the blacksmithing introductory book. He didn't expect it to actually succeed. Lin Nua saw this and curiously used analysis to check the attributes of the spirit Oregon. 100 skills iron, level 1. Metal information, level 1 spirit or 100 skills stone, formed after being tempered into a level 1 metal material. Material quality, 89 spirit ores are divided into 1 to 13 levels. After being tempered, the spiritual metal material is divided into 1 to 18 levels. Each level has a quality evaluation of 1 to 100. The metal smelted from a level 13 spirit ore is equivalent to a level 13 metal. In the later stages, it relies on smelting the metal to increase the metal's level and quality. At this time, another panel appeared in front of Lin Tai. Frowny face blacksmith profession advancement point list, remaining time, 5 days 13 hours 46 minutes. First place, Tian Beiyu, 852 points, completed level 3 mission. Second place, Tao Lin, 753 points, completed level 3 mission. Third place, Zhong Fengyi, 732 points, completed level 3 mission. 9742. Lin Tai, 89 points, level 1 mission stage. Because they were in a team, Lin Nua also discovered the ranking that appeared on his father's panel. Other than surprise, he was also filled with pride. He was very confident in his father. He knew that with his father's strength, he would definitely be able to charge into the top 10,000. But he didn't think that just by forging the first spirit ore, he would be able to successfully jump into the top 10,000. One had to know that the first mission's evaluation was based on 5 spirit ores, and his father had only forged 1. If he counted the points from the other 4 spirit ores, he felt that his father's points could definitely charge into the top 1,000, or even higher. At this moment, Lin Nua's heart was filled with anticipation. He felt as if he was witnessing his father's rise. But when Lin Tai saw the ranking, he was very dissatisfied. He immediately picked up his hammer, and while his body was still warm, he began to hammer the second spirit Oregon. As time passed, the spirit ores were hammered into spirit ores one by one, and Lin Tai's ranking on the list rose in a straight line. When the 5th spirit ore was completely hammered, Lin Tai's ranking had already reached 587. Compared to the excited Lin Nua, Lin Tai was very calm. Because he only had one thought, and that was to get first place. Chapter 319. After closing the door, Lin Tai paused for a while, then turned around and walked toward his room. If the inheritance of skills was a spiritual story written by generations of people, then the smithing manual was a physical record of the skill's historical changes. After taking out the cooled finished parts, Lin Tai got busy again and began to assemble the parts. As the steam appeared, Lin Tai scooped up the fused spiritual iron from the water with a pair of pliers. First place, O Tian, 10,864 points, completed 3 rounds of mission. The first step was folding and forging to increase the toughness of the spiritual iron. Lin Tai had actually read this ancient book countless times when he was young, but he could not remember many parts of it, so he flipped through it again. The blacksmith ranking had changed drastically at this time. After reading it carefully for a few times, Lin Tai stood up and began his third round of mission. Although this kind of equipment with skills could be found in the shop or Tonghua, the price was extremely high and not affordable for ordinary players. Therefore, when a player forged such a weapon, most players were excited. Many people might find the name Otion unfamiliar, but there was no one who didn't know of his ancestor. He was the founder of swordsmithing, Ojizi, who had forged famous swords such as Zhanlu, Chun Jun, Evil Slaying, Yu Chong, and Ju Quebec. At this moment, the forum and the regional chat channel were filled with players' discussions. Apart from celebrating the appearance of another professional player, they were also guessing who Otion was and why they had never heard of him before. As time passed, Lin Tai was fully focused on forging, condensing all his passion into strength and smashing into the metal that was gradually forming along with the hammer. After the blacksmith class advancement event was launched, players enthusiastically participated in it, and the event could be said to be very successful. Although none of his descendants had the same strength and reputation as Ojizi, he had inherited a good swordsmithing skill. Even in this chaotic world where human lives were as worthless as grass, he could rely on his excellent skills to make a name for himself. With every step he took, his expression became more determined. After all, the past was the past. Since the first bamboo slip, the smithing manual had gone through many revisions. The latest revision was made by his father, and it could be said that it recorded the essence of the Lin family's smithing history. Then, he quickly opened the blacksmith ranking panel and began to search for his father's current ranking. Second place, Hulong 2,542 points, completed 3 rounds of mission. The subsequent forging was a physical task, but it was also a technical one. Azure Frost Iron, Grade 2. 3 hours before the end of the trial, Lin Tai's side was already filled with more than 20 parts for the weapon he wanted to forge, and Lin Tai was still forging with all his might. Second place, Otion 955 points, second round of the mission, Blacksmith Profession Advancement Point Ranking, remaining time, 2 hours and 54 minutes, time was of the essence. After hesitating for a while, Lin Tai suddenly thought of something and immediately chose to go offline. He then hurriedly ran downstairs to the storeroom. Otion wasn't surprised at all that he won first place. Fourth place, Lin Tai 943 points, second round of the mission. About half an hour later, Lin Tai's face lit up as he pulled out a book with a blue cover from the pile of books. Under the calcination of the furnace and the hammering of the 100 refinement hammer, the spiritual iron gradually softened and met the requirements for fusion. After this piece of spiritual iron was forged, Lin Tai didn't have time to continue forging, or else he might not be able to complete the third round due to the lack of time. Therefore, Otion, who was also in the second round but had more points than him, attracted Lin Tai's attention. Therefore, from Otion's point of view, he should have been first in this blacksmith trial, because it had been like this since ancient times. He had the skills and the qualifications. After returning to his room, Lin Tai first took out his phone and took a photo of the entire book and uploaded it to his official account. Then, he logged into the game and opened the photo album to flip through. Otion, Lin Tai muttered. After a while, Lin Tai's gaze focused on a piece of equipment that matched the picture, and his face instantly revealed an expression of joy. Lin Nuo, who was at the side, was watching attentively and learning his father's forging skills. After looking at the ranking, Lin Tai once again focused on the forging at hand. First place, Yi Xiaoqiu, 1052 points, completed third round of the mission. There wasn't much time left, so he had to do his best. Lin Nuo, who was at the side, finally let out a sigh of relief. Looking at the less than 50 minutes left, He was somewhat glad that he made it. Because today was the last day of the blacksmith trial, the competition for the top 10,000 would also be decided today, so the competition was exceptionally intense. The ding-ding sound of iron hammers striking the spirit ores could be heard everywhere inside and outside the mansion of the underworld. Therefore, if he only forged according to the template, Lin Tai felt that he might not be able to win. Looking at the title Lin Family's Forging Score Volume 2, this was what he was looking for. Third place, Wu Mu Yu, 953 points, completed third round of the mission. It was obvious that this player named O Tian had extremely exquisite forging skills. Lin Tai felt that he had already performed very well in the first 2 rounds of the mission, but he didn't expect that he would still fall behind in points. Weapon Special Effect: Moon Slash, inherent skill of the weapon. Moon Essence, inherent skill of the weapon. There were actually many options for forging. Lin Tai, who was completely immersed in forging, forgot about the passage of time. Lin Nuo, who was at the side, was anxious but didn't dare to disturb him. He only looked at the remaining time from time to time while observing his father forging. The fourth part, gold plating. Moreover, in O Tian's opinion, the Sky Moon Blade, which was created with the spiritual ores and forging tools in the game, was a peak-level weapon that he had never had before. He didn't believe that anyone could do it better than him. Although there were many forging templates that could be used as a reference, whether or not one could forge it was a completely different matter. Spiritual iron quality 93. Especially after seeing the attributes of this weapon, the players let out all sorts of howls, clearly shocked. Second grade. Dad, you've forged a second-grade spiritual iron, and a high-quality one at that. Lin Nuo seemed very excited at the side. Equipment attributes. The third part, Ice Quench. Many players' accumulated spiritual ores exploded at the last moment. Following the appearance of the forged products, the rankings kept changing, and the competition was especially intense. As the third round of the mission began, Lin Tai took out an introductory forging book and flipped through it. After a while, he fell into deep thought. Weapon durability 2000 out of 2000. Looking at his own ranking, Lin Tai once again focused his attention on the 2 pieces of spiritual iron in his hands. He immediately swung down the 100 refinement hammer. Following the sound of metal colliding, sparks flew everywhere. Server announcement: congratulations to player Lin Tai for forging a purple quality special item in an innovative way, named Time Flow. Weapons, equipment, large machines, small tools, items, and so on. These were all options. However, after seeing the points of the player named O Tian on the ranking board, Lin Tai already felt a sense of crisis. Bakey Mansion of the Dead. As the storeroom had not been opened for a long time, a gust of dust rushed toward Lin Tai the moment the door was pushed open. Lin Tai could not care less about this. He strode in and started rummaging. The iron hammer danced in the air once again. Sweat flowed down his forehead and down his back, occasionally dripping on the red-hot iron, making a sizzling sound. Blacksmith. Lin Tai Blacksmith. O Tian Blacksmith Profession Advancement Ranking Board. Remaining time 23 hours and 46 minutes. Weakness of the item. The quality of the spiritual ore is too low, causing the durability and strength of the time flow to be too low. After taking out all the spiritual iron that was forged in the previous mission, Lin Tai got busy again. Strength of the item. Level 2. Meanwhile, the father and son of the Lin family were also busy here. 2 hours passed quickly. At this moment, Lin Tai suddenly stopped hammering. He took a deep breath and put the last part in his hand into the water with a pair of pliers. Weapon details. A purple quality weapon forged from cold iron, green cold iron, and obsidian iron. Fortunately, he was well prepared this time. He had forged enough spiritual iron in the first 2 rounds. Otherwise, Lin Tai would not have dared to challenge such a difficult weapon that required 32 parts and was almost like a work of art. Introduction of the item. a humanoid battle puppet assembled from 32 individual items. Its body can be flexibly changed and reassembled in battle. It possesses extremely strong destructive power. In the hands of a player who has the corresponding puppet skills, it can kill monsters that are above its level. It is a high-quality puppet weapon. Lin Tai then walked out of the storeroom with the forging manual. Just as he was about to close the door, his gaze suddenly stopped on the weapons and armors that had accumulated dust for a long time. His expression immediately became complicated. Heavenly Moon Blade, level 50 purple weapon. Because he was qualified. In the last round of forging, Tian arrogantly chose to forge creatively instead of using the template provided in the forging manual. Reality proved that his choice was not wrong. He successfully forged a weapon with a special effect that was different from the template, and he even obtained more than 10,000 points, firmly placing him in first place. Seeing that his father had already rushed to fourth place, Lin Nuo immediately grinned from ear to ear. However, when he turned to look at Lin Tai, he saw that Lin Tai's eyebrows were tightly knitted. Metal details. A grade 2 metal material smelted from 3 pieces of level 1 spiritual or cold iron. It has a slight cold attribute and is suitable for forging attribute equipment. Server announcement. Congratulations to player Tian for using a creative method to successfully forge a new purple quality weapon named Heavenly Moon Blade. The third round of the quest could be said to be the most difficult round of the forging quest. The player was required to forge an item himself. Just as Tian was still immersed in the weapon he had forged, a game notification suddenly appeared. Since he had decided to fight for first place, and with a strong opponent like Tian around, Lin Tai naturally did not want to forge according to the template. Perhaps innovation was the key to victory. Third place, Mu Yi 2088 points, completed 3 rounds of the quest. At this time, a large number of players had gathered beside a moat outside the Mansion of the Dead. Although the Land of the 9 Luminaries had officially declared war on Baiki, the players still had something more important to do before the army of the Land of the 9 Luminaries arrived. Chi. Time Flow, level 58 purple-colored special effect item. The second step was to cover the metal with soil and burn the iron. Cover the parts of the metal that did not require high hardness with the soil, and then heat the metal to a specific temperature. When the red-hot metal entered the water, the exposed parts would quickly cool down, while the parts covered with soil would not have an obvious change in temperature. This would cause the hardness to be different from the exposed parts, thus achieving the effect of combining hardness and softness. Item durability, 1000 reparable. Wow! At this moment, the players in the server were in an uproar. However, what happened next made him dumbfounded. He saw Lin Tai open the menu in the shop, purchase an engraving knife, and start a new round of processing. Although he was surprised, Lin Tai did not think too much about it. He opened the quest menu and chose to submit the quest. After all, the third round was the key to this trial. At this time, a game notification suddenly appeared. Ingenious person, Time Flow, at the northern gate of the Mansion of the Dead, Tian, who was holding the Heavenly Moon Blade, looked at the weapon that was almost like a work of art. He seemed to be obsessed with it. Looking at the decreasing time, Lin Nuo was extremely restless, like an ant on a hot pan, anxiously pacing in circles. Chapter 320. In the last 5 minutes of the blacksmith's trial, just when Tian thought that he was unshakable in first place, a notification popped up, shocking every player, including Tian. All the players subconsciously glanced at the ranking board. Blacksmith Profession Advancement Point Ranking, remaining time, 4 minutes 23 seconds. First place, Lin Tai, 31,872 points, completed 3 rounds of mission. Second place, Tian, 10,864 points, completed the 3-ring mission. Third place, Hulong, 2,542 points, completed the 3-part mission. Fourth place, Mu Yi, 2,088 points, completed 3 rounds of the mission. All the players were shocked when they saw the points for first place. To occupy the first place with a score 3 times higher than the second place, this kind of surpassing could be described as crushing. Even Tong Gua, who was playing landlord with the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra in the forging room, widened his eyes in disbelief when he saw the ranking. At this moment, the game notification appeared again. Server announcement: the blacksmith trial has officially ended. The first player, Lin Tai, will receive a purple forging hammer, glazed hammer, and a purple crafting furnace, flying star cauldron, as a gift from the system. After the announcement, all the players saw the flow of time model that Lin Tai had created. Watermelon_taro. It's so exquisite, I want. And I mean, almighty, can you make one for me? Roasting Chong-e hugging the jade rabbit. One look and you can tell that he's a god of folk craftsmanship. This weapon looks more like a work of art. I like it a lot, adore. Shueli_the_strongest. That's awesome. 30,000 points, which means that it's twice as good as the Moonblade with 2 skills. That's amazing. Is this what a powerhouse is like? Crayon_Shinchan. Although I admire this big boss named Lin Tai for being able to create such an exquisite weapon, allow me to ask, apart from being a wife, is there any other use for this time flow? How do I use it? I'm not a robot, I can't fight on my own. A large wolf dog replied to Crayon Shinchan, you're so nosy. This is art. Do you understand art? Art is meant to be appreciated. Cha Na's view. Lin family hammer-wielding successor. Dad, you're awesome. I knew you'd be number 1. Happy emoji. The moment the final result appeared, Lin Tai's time flow instantly became the focus of discussion among the players. Its popularity completely surpassed that of O Tion's heavenly Moonblade. Even O Tion himself was stunned. He looked at the delicate female puppet with a complicated expression, but he had to admit that he had indeed lost, and lost completely. Lin Tai, I will surpass you. At this moment, O Tion's heart was filled with unwillingness. However, his fighting spirit was also stimulated. Although this was just a game, O Tion swore in his heart that he would become the strongest blacksmith because he was O Yezi's descendant. At this moment, O Tion had already declared war against Lin Tai in his heart. At this time, a white-haired old man was sitting on a cliff on the Liuli coast. He was holding a fishing rod and seemed to be fishing, but his eyes were staring blankly at the other end of the sea, as if he had something on his mind. A gust of sea breeze blew over, and his figure could not help but sway along with it. He was like a candle in the wind, and there was only a rotten aura on his body. There was not the slightest vitality of a living person, and he sat there like a statue. At this moment, a notification of the trial ranking appeared. The old man reached out his hand to close the notification out of habit, but when he saw the appearance of the human-shaped puppet, he was suddenly stunned. At this moment, a glimmer of light appeared in his turbid eyes, and his lips trembled slightly as they opened and closed twice. Time. Flow. Time. Flow. As he stared at the puppet on the display panel, the old man's emotions gradually became agitated. Time flow, ha ha. At this moment, Tang Mu's tears flowed uncontrollably. He reached out his hand to touch the time flow on the panel, but his hands passed through it. At this moment, his memory also returned to that day 57 years ago. It was November of that year, and it was snowing heavily. According to the local customs, Tang Mu was led by his parents to the temple on the nearby mountain to burn incense. As there was a large flow of people on the mountain that day, the road up the mountain was packed with people. The path up the mountain was like a queue, and they could only go up a few steps after a while. At that time, Tang Mu was only 13 years old, and he could not stand such an environment, so he wanted to go back. However, his parents were more devout, and were not affected by Tang Mu. They only comforted him, but did not leave. By the time Tang Mu followed his parents to the top of the mountain, it was already evening. When his parents entered the temple hall to burn incense, the curious Tang Mu walked out of the side door of the temple and began to wander around the mountain. As he walked, he lost his sense of direction, and the noise of the surrounding tourists also faded away. At this moment, Tang Mu was scared out of his wits. At that time, he panicked and began to run around the back mountain like a headless fly. The night was getting darker and the sky was still snowing heavily. Tang Mu's face was blue from the cold. Thinking that he was going to die, Tang Mu was so scared that he cried, and he staggered forward. At this moment, he discovered a small, run-down temple, and there was a faint flickering fire inside. At that time, Tang Mu was already frozen to death. After standing outside the run-down temple for a while, he mustered up his courage and walked in. This step was his destiny. Tang Mu saw an old man in ragged clothes in the run-down temple. The old man's body was curled up into a ball, and he was sitting in front of a bonfire made of wood. He was holding a woman in his arms, or more accurately, a doll. The doll had the appearance of a beautiful woman, as if it had just been painted. Her expression was lifelike, and her eyes and eyelashes seemed to be hanging with tears. It made people feel tender and loving when they saw it. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to tell that it was just a doll. The old man was very surprised to see Tang Mu, and when he realized that Tang Mu's body was still trembling, he waved for Tang Mu to sit over. At first, Tang Mu was very scared, and he basically only answered every question the old man asked. Seeing Tang Mu's fear, the old man smiled and said, "Have you seen the puppet show?" Tang Mu shook his head blankly. When the old man heard that, he picked up the doll and stood up. Then, he carried the puppet and performed in front of the bonfire. Under his control, the doll danced gracefully and gracefully. Although she had a sorrowful makeup on, she was still beautiful beyond compare. It was as if there really was such a woman at the old man's side who was dancing with him. She was as light as a feather, like a fairy. The old man's acting had joy and sorrow, tears and laughter. Tang Mu, who was staying at the old man's side, seemed to have become a bystander, watching the doll move according to the old man's rhythm, sometimes flying, sometimes advancing and retreating, making people immersed in the scene. The phantom around the old man seemed to be cheering for the old man. What made Tang Mu even more incredulous was that every time the beautiful doll's eyes swept across the old man, there seemed to be affection and love in her eyes. Tang Mu, who was seeing the puppet show for the first time, could not help but be fascinated. That night, Tang Mu had a dream. He dreamed that he was also dancing in the heavy snow with a beautiful doll. Everything seemed so beautiful. The next day, at dawn, the old man woke up Tang Mu, who was still sleeping, and told him how to go to the temple in front of the mountain. After last night's dream, Tang Mu blurted out and told the old man that he wanted to learn the puppet show. The old man looked very surprised. He stared at Tang Mu for a moment, seeming to see the determination in Tang Mu's eyes. The old man sighed, turned to the foot of the wall, picked up a big wooden box, and handed it to Tang Mu. After receiving it, Tang Mu opened the wooden box curiously and found a lifelike doll lying inside. Then, the old man stuffed a book into Tang Mu's hands, telling him that he was a dying man and could not teach him. If he had talent, he could learn by himself. Before leaving, Tang Mu asked the old man what the name of the doll was. The old man replied with a smile, "Time Flow." After that, Tang Mu seemed to have changed into a different person. He was completely addicted to the puppet show. Tang Mu's change made his parents furious. His teacher even tried to communicate with him several times, but at that time, Tang Mu could be said to not listen at all. After beating and scolding him, and using all methods, Tang Mu became a hopeless person in everyone's eyes. When he became an adult, he was kicked out of the house by his parents. At that time, Tang Mu only had a doll to accompany him. Even in the future, he relied on performing the puppet show for others to make a living. Sometimes he was full, sometimes he was hungry, and he lived like a homeless man. This strings puppet show lasted for a lifetime. when he was 53 years old, he received news that his father had passed away. Although he was kicked out of the house, Tang Mu still hurried home. Seeing Tang Mu arrive in ragged clothes, his relatives all treated him as a beggar and chased him out. Tang Mu ran in again, shouting his name and telling his relatives his identity. However, the touching feeling he had imagined did not appear. Everyone still looked at him as if he was a stranger, even his mother. Tang Mu felt a sharp pain in his heart. He endured the gazes of his relatives, kowtowed in front of his father, and then turned around and ran out. At that moment Tang Mu, who was in a daze, thought of the old man. Then, he went up the mountain with time flow and found the dilapidated temple. At that moment, the dilapidated temple was covered with cobwebs, and the old man was long gone. That night it snowed again, just like that night 40 years ago. The snow was very heavy, and Tang Mu shivered from the cold. Then, he found some dry wood and lit a fire to keep warm. As the bonfire danced, Tang Mu looked at time flow in his arms in a daze. After a moment, he suddenly looked angry. "I've been down and out for decades, and it's all because of you. The weather is cold, and I can't even afford to buy clothes. Now, even my relatives don't want to acknowledge me. It's snowing heavily tonight, and I'm cold and hungry. What's the use of you? Why don't you burn it? It can even warm my body. How many 40 years could one have in life?" He had been obsessed for 40 years, and he had also been down and out for 40 years. At that moment, Tang Mu felt that his life had been ruined in the hands of this doll. Thinking of this, Tang Mu suddenly pushed time flow in his hand into the bonfire. The fire swept across the doll's beautiful dancing sleeves, burning the delicate bones carved from linden, and making crackling sounds. At that moment, the puppet slowly stood up and sadly bowed to Tang Mu, as if thanking him for his 40 years of companionship. 2 lines of tears could be faintly seen falling from the puppet's eyes. At this moment, he bowed to Tang Mu as a gesture of farewell. Looking at the burning bonfire, Tang Mu suddenly burst into tears. "Without you, I'll have nothing." That night, the bonfire burned for a long time, warming the entire temple and protecting Tang Mu until dawn, when the snow stopped. Tang Mu also sat in a daze for the whole night. His mind was filled with the scenes of him dancing with the doll in the past 40 years. However, time flow had long been burned to ashes by the fire. The orchid fingers twirled the dust like water, and the 3-foot red platform blew thousands of songs. Singing long sorrow does not become sorrow, and the very red place turns to ash. Chapter 321. Tang Mu's fingers trembled subconsciously as the memories came back to him. It can buy spiritual ores. Lin Nua's neck shrank when he saw that his father was about to make a move. Although Tang Mu gave up on the idea in the end, he still persisted in his craftsmanship. He made some small toys and sold them for some pocket money, then donated all the money to the Craftsmanship Inheritance Funding Association. Seeing Tang Mu's expression, Lin Tai was a little surprised. "I'll be there soon." At this moment, a beautiful figure seemed to appear in front of him, constantly dancing to the rhythm of his fingers, jumping up and down. "Can you let me see time flow?" Tang Mu's expression was pleading. Hearing this, Lin Nua was touched and nodded his head. "It's all in the past, let's not talk about it anymore. I'll just take a look, thank you." 2 months ago, Tang Mu accidentally found out that one could earn money from this game. After a detailed understanding, he spent some money to rent a virtual reality helmet. Since then, he would choose to fish along the Liuli coast every day. He would then sell his soul coins and donate all the money he earned. Kindness is kindness, we have to repay it. Although it's from the ancestors, the descendants should continue it. Just like my craftsmanship, it's also an inheritance, I can't lose it. At this time, Lin Tai opened the trading panel with Tang Mu and placed time flow in the trading box. Some people are born in rich families, while others are born in poverty. That's why people often say that this world is unfair. But think about it, Why do those who are born in wealth have a higher starting line than others? It's like a relay race, passed down from generation to generation. Didn't the wealth enjoyed by the later generations come from the hard work of the ancestors? As craftsmen, since we've taken over the baton, we have to inherit it all. We can't forget the roots, or else we'll be letting our ancestors down. Bakey, Mansion of the Dead. Their lineage is kind to our ancestors, our descendants naturally have to repay them. Lin Tai saw the depression in Lin Nua's eyes and spoke again. Sir, can you tell me how you got time flow? Lin Tai asked softly. Lin Tai, who was chatting with Lin Nua, received a friend request. Can't you be more promising? This equipment is my collection. After all, it's the first item I made here, it's very memorable. At this age, he had already given up on his former dreams. After all, he might die one day. Lin Tai was a little confused. He didn't know what was going on. Lin Tai frowned slightly, but he still took out the flow of time. Tang Mu was touched. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to refuse, but he couldn't say anything. Old ancestor, it has been many years. Lin Nua explained in a low voice. Looking at the flow of time in his inventory, Tang Mu's eyes became moist. He had thought about reuniting with her countless times, but he never thought it would be in this form. After that night, he had been alone. Because he was old, there was no job for him. In the end, the government arranged for him to live in a nursing home. Tang Mu nodded, but his gaze was still fixed on time. The Lin clan is indebted to the lineage of ingenuity. If future generations encounter them, we will do our best to repay their kindness. Looking at his son, Lin Tai could not help but sigh. Seeing this, Lin Tai immediately stepped forward to stop Tang Mu. Why is that? Sir, what's wrong with you? However, at this moment, he saw the flow of time that he had been thinking about day and night. Every time he thought about it in his dreams, Tang Mu was undoubtedly excited. After the dance of strings ended, Tang Mu turned to look at the mansion of the dead. Then, he swung his fishing rod and ran away. Money, money, money. All you know is money. What's the use of money? Lin Tai could not help but stare at him. Tears rolled down his cheeks again. I'm not sure. He said he would be here soon. Lin Tai shook his head. Sir, I would like to ask, are you a descendant of the lineage of ingenuity? I had a puppet like that back then. Haha, it's all in the past. Let's not talk about it. Tang Mu wiped the tears from the corner of his eyes and smiled. Tang Mu turned to look at Lin Tai and then shook his head. Dad, this is a special purple equipment. It can be sold for a lot of money. Hello, may I know who is Lin Tai? Tang Mu asked immediately. Hearing this, Tang Mu was stunned. It's me. Sir, what's the matter? Lin Tai was a little stunned. He did not expect that the person looking for him would be a white-haired old man. Hearing this, Lin Tai already knew that Tang Mu was a descendant of the lineage of ingenuity. He quickly opened the photo album and started searching. Then, he showed Tang Mu the picture with ingenuity, flow of time. Hearing this, Lin Tai stared. He had also thought about the flow of time countless days and nights, regretting his impulsiveness back then. However, there was no turning back. That burning was loneliness. Seeing this, Lin Nua said gloomily, I'm beside the fountain in the center of the mansion of the dead. Is there anything I can help you with? How could Tang Mu not be familiar with the word ingenuity? That was because the book that the old man in the dilapidated temple gave him was Ingenuity and Ingenuity. Since then, Tang Mu had tried countless times to build a new flow of time. However, he could not do it with his ability. After thanking Lin Tai, Tang Mu left. However, Lin Tai's eyes were filled with relief. Take it. You need her more than I do, Lin Tai said firmly. In the end, Tang Mu accepted the trade. Lin Tai immediately smiled. Back then, the ancestors of the Lin family were in great trouble. It was thanks to the help of the lineage of ingenuity that we were able to survive. Therefore, the lineage of ingenuity is the benefactor of the Lin family. This is what our ancestors taught us. Moreover, the flow of time was originally a gift from the lineage of ingenuity. The Lin family only made a slight improvement. Therefore, no matter what, you deserve the flow of time. It seemed that doing this could give him some comfort, because Tang Mu felt that there might be a person who was as down and out as he was in need of help somewhere. After taking another deep look at the flow of time, Tang Mu's eyes were still filled with reluctance. However, he did not have the money to buy the expensive purple equipment. Resisting the urge to beg Lin Tai to give him the flow of time, he turned around and prepared to leave. I guess it's a player who wants to buy the flow of time in your hands. Hee, father, how much are you going to sell it for? Lin Nua's imagination immediately ran wild. After waiting for more than 10 years, how he wished to see the flow of time again. As the two of them were chatting, a figure rushed over from afar. Then, it stopped in front of Lin Tai and his son and started panting. Father, who is it? Lin Nua asked. Looking at the flow of time on the display panel, Tang Mu, who was already past his prime, was momentarily stunned. Lin Tai subconsciously clicked confirm. Immediately, a dialogue box popped up. Tang Mu's footsteps suddenly stopped. You know about ingenuity? Sir, I think I know what you want. Since this is what our ancestors taught us, I'll give you the flow of time. Although this amount of money was insignificant, it could at least comfort his heart. Hello, may I ask where you are now? However, when Lin Tai heard this, his expression froze. Sir, you said that you once had one? Seeing this, Tang Mu hurriedly took a step forward and reached out to touch the flow of time. However, as if he had thought of something, he immediately stopped. However, his expression was full of nostalgia and sorrow. While Tang Mu was shocked, Lin Tai stretched out his hand and pointed at the line of words at the bottom of the page. Chapter 322. Baiki. Beside a cliff on the Liuli coast, under the bright moonlight, Tang Mu held the paint he had bought from the alchemy player and used a brush to lightly paint on his face. Her attire and appearance were still as clear as ever in his mind. With Tang Mu's hard work over the past few days, the appearance of the Time Warlock had changed greatly. Compared to when Lin Tai had first forged it, it now had a trace of charm and looked extremely lifelike. Her long black hair was tossed behind her head, and she wore a silver-white phoenix coronet on her head. She wore a bright red dancing gown that swayed gently in the sea breeze, and her posture was beautiful and alluring. After trimming his eyebrows, Tang Mu gazed at the peerless beauty in front of him with a trace of nostalgia and joy in his eyes. After staring at her in a daze for a moment, Tang Mu walked up behind Time River, lifted her long hair, pulled out 10 nearly transparent ropes from her back, and tied them around his fingers. The makeup she had put on for the past few days was, for this moment, to let the flow of time in her memory dance with her. As Tang Mu's fingers trembled, time flowed out of her right hand. Her sleeves fell down, revealing a jade-white arm. Her feet moved lightly as she began to dance. Her black hair was dyed black, and her red sleeves fluttered in the wind. She looked like a fairy or a spirit. The spring moon in the sky was like a mirror. The woman under the moon sometimes raised her wrist and lowered her eyebrows. Sometimes she stretched out her hands. Her long sleeves danced in the wind. It was as if she was painting a painting. Her jade sleeves were elegant and vigorous. At this moment, Tang Mu opened his mouth. His aged voice was singing a mellow tune. In Tang Mu's tune, the flow of time was constantly changing, turning, swinging, closing, twisting, circling, bending, flowing like water, like flying dragons, like dancing phoenixes. While Tang Mu was dancing with the flow of time, a heroic spirit inside the martyr's palace began to tremble violently. This immediately attracted Lu Wu and Bei Li's attention. Someone has resonated with the valiant spirit. It seems like the inheritance is about to be activated, Lu Wu said expectantly as he looked at the trembling valiant spirit. Upon hearing this, Bei Li squinted her eyes and smiled. She then started analyzing. Time elapsed, early stage of Ghost Commander. Details of the heroic spirit, a special spirit born from a doll. It possesses an excellent talent for cultivation. It met the king of Bakey by chance while drifting aimlessly in the land of Bakey. Its memory was awakened, and it pledged its loyalty to the king of Bakey. It claimed to have passed away in time. I clasped my hands in the fire, saying that we would not be able to see each other again. I hope that you will take care of yourself. In the next life, I hope that I will have the luck to dance with you again. The heroic spirit's trembling grew more and more intense. Soon after, it broke free from the heroic spirit palace's restraints and flew towards Laurie's direction. The dance under the moonlight continued, and Tang Mu's face was full of smiles. His greatest regret in this life was the passage of time. His greatest dream was also the passage of time. His greatest regret was also the passage of time. He had thought that he would be buried with regrets in this life, but he never thought that he would meet again and dance with her. As time passed, Tang Mu was already panting, but he didn't seem to feel tired, as if he was making up for his many years of regret. At this time, a red stream of light quickly came from the direction of the underworld, and then suddenly collided with the body of the flow of time. The dancing flow of time suddenly stopped in place, and the red light slowly seeped into the body of the flow of time. At that moment, a game notification appeared. Game notification. Obtained the inheritance of the heroic spirit, passing of time. Inheritance in progress. Under Tang Mu's astonished gaze, the beautiful eyes of the flow of time blinked lightly. She turned to look at him, and a trace of admiration flowed out from her eyes. At this time, Tang Mu heard the game notification again. Game notification. Changes have occurred in the inheritance, triggering a hidden function. Do you want to create a new class, Puppet Master? Puppet Master, Class Introduction. A puppet master's best friend and family are the puppets in his hands. He is adept at controlling puppets, skillful beasts, and other tools to fight against his enemies. He possesses extremely strong destructive power, and his only weakness is himself. Class Advancement. There is no fixed template and needs to be explored on his own. Class Characteristics. An advanced puppet master can bestow spirituality to the puppets, allowing them to develop beginner spirituality. Looking at the game notification, Tang Mu was momentarily stunned. In reality, he wasn't interested in leveling up at all. However, when he saw the introduction saying that an advanced puppet master could bestow spirituality to the puppets, Tang Mu did not hesitate and clicked Confirm. Server Announcement. Congratulations to player Tang Mu for creating a new class, Puppet Master. Obtained 500 bound soul coins as a reward. Another player who created a new class appeared after he. All the players who were preparing for the 9 Luminaries battle were shocked. The forum was in an uproar. Just as everyone was asking who the god was, a player opened a thread and uploaded a video. It should be this old man. The one dancing with him seems to be the flow of time created by Lin Tai. I accidentally found it at the seaside and felt that it was beautiful, so I recorded it. This rabbit doesn't eat carrots. Attached video. This video undoubtedly shocked countless players once again. The dance under the moonlight was magnificent, especially the flow of time. Under the bright moonlight, the graceful singing and dancing figure looked like a fairy, lovely and charming. Watermelon_Taro. Oh my god, I was just discussing how to use the flow of time. I didn't expect a big shot to come out and put it into practice. Crayon_Shinchan. What did I say? I told you that the flow of time is used as a wife. Tonggua's arrogant face. Shueli_the_strongest. Wow, the ancient costume of the flow of time is so beautiful. I want it too. Sparkling eyes. Roasting_Jade_hair_ while _hugging_Changi. What a great wife. I suddenly want one too. It's a pity that someone with bad hands like me can't play with it. Laughing emoji. Cat_fancier. It's so beautiful. At that time, I thought that the flow of time could only be controlled by puppetry. As expected. But this player is really amazing. The flow of time dance is very smooth without any awkwardness. Like emoji. While the players were discussing in the forum, Tang Mu, who was at the Liuli coast, was surprised to find that the flow of time seemed to have come alive. As it stared at him, its eyes were filled with tears. Tang Mu opened the analysis subconsciously. Flow of Time, Level 59. Introduction. A humanoid battle puppet assembled by 32 individual items. Its body can be changed and reassembled during battle. It possesses extremely strong destructive power. Now that it has been injected with a matching heroic spirit, its interior has undergone a huge change. It has developed a weak consciousness that can be repaired during growth. Item durability. 30,000 reparable. Item strength. Level 9 can be upgraded by devouring spiritual ores. Special features. Soul Devourer. This puppet can be upgraded along with the player. Note: in the state of Soul Devourer, the more experience gained by the flow of time after killing a monster, the less experience gained by the player. The player can adjust the amount. The maximum experience gained by the flow of time is 50%. Similarly, the player will lose 50% experience after killing a monster. Inherited abilities. 1000 Contraptions Rope, a Semi-Human Shadow, Falling Stars Flower, 1000 Soul Rend, 1000 Contraptions Rope, Special Passive. Introduction. A thin rope that is almost transparent in color and has extremely strong toughness. It is mainly used by puppet masters to control the puppet. It can also be used to attack unexpected enemies. Sharpness, Level 6. Semi-Human Shadow Companion, active. Introduction. Use the 1000 Contraptions Rope to control the puppet to instantly swap positions with the user. It can be used to escape in battle. 1000 Soul Rend, special active. After this skill is activated, the puppet's body will disperse. It can be used to dodge skills or attack. Falling Stars Flower, silver level active. Introduction. Temporarily awakens the consciousness in the flow of time. During this period, the puppet will automatically attack and defend, and use hidden abilities. At this time, the flow of time looked vivid, as if it had really come to life. It could be said that it had changed a lot, especially when the introduction said that the flow of time had gained consciousness. This completely shocked Tang Mu. Looking at the tearful and lovely flow of time, Tang Mu suddenly felt that he had seen this look somewhere before. Suddenly, he thought of that snowy night, and the teardrop left behind by the flowing of time in the flames. At this time, the tear streaked across Flow of Time's cheeks and was about to fall. This time, Tang Mu reached out and took the tear, then raised his hand to wipe the tear from the corner of Flow of Time's eyes. Never again. We won't be apart in this lifetime. Chapter 323. After the blacksmith's trial came to an end, the Baiki players faced a tough challenge. It was a battle with the Land of the Nine Luminaries. The opponent in this battle was too strong, but the players were also prepared to fight to the death. After that, the players went to the Land of the Nine Luminaries several times to investigate the situation and found that several troops of the Nine Luminaries' army had finished preparing and were now advancing toward Baiki. Under such circumstances, the players discussed the most on the forum every day about how to defeat the strong with the weak. Many players even formed a few discussion groups on the forum to discuss the upcoming war with the Land of the Nine Luminaries. In the end, they came to a conclusion that they could not take the initiative to defend against the Nine Luminaries' army on the barren grassland. Instead, they should fight at the boneyard in the southwest of the Mansion of the Dead. There were two advantages to doing so. First, it could lengthen the battle line of the Nine Luminaries' army, which would delay the arrival of their reinforcements and supplies. The second advantage was that the boneyard was very close to the Mansion of the Dead where the players were, so they could easily return to the battlefield after resurrection. It could be said that the players' advantage of resurrection was increased. Of course, these two advantages were based on the fact that the war was a long one. Now, the players were most worried that His Excellency 9 luminaries would attack directly. The players were not afraid of the other brothers of the star brilliance, but His Excellency 9 luminaries was a big problem for the players. After all, he was too strong. Other than Tonghua, whose strength was completely unstable, no one else in Beiki could fight against him. The players also analyzed this point and felt that the probability of His Excellency 9 luminaries attacking directly was not high. Since the essence of this battle was to subdue the forces of Beiki, even though His Excellency Joyao would send his troops, the final subduing would still require the next His Excellency of Beiki, who would be one of his brothers. After all, if His Excellency 9 luminaries conquered Beiki and gave the territory to his brother, then his brother would never be able to become the king of Beiki because the Emperor of the Underworld would definitely not approve of such an act. However, even the other brothers felt the same sense of crisis. They were also clear that this war was bound to be a long one. However, all the players were prepared for it. The land of Naraka, Blue Valley Ruins. When the war between Beiki and the 9 luminaries was about to break out, many wars broke out between the players of Naraka in the Blue Valley Ruins. Apart from fighting the monster forces that had taken root in the Blue Valley Ruins, the war between players had also officially begun. The reason for this war was not complicated. It was similar to reality, which was the fight for resources. To the east of the Blue Valley Ruins, players had discovered a small spirit ore mine. The spirit ore mine was rich in level 1 spirit ores. Although it was not clear how many spirit ores there were, this news had undoubtedly caused a stir among the players of the Naraka server. The spiritual ore was extremely useful to them. It could be said that it was the most important resource other than their levels and soul coins. Therefore, the U.S. military immediately gathered a large number of troops and even recruited many players. They did not hesitate to kill a monster force that resided in the forest mine and occupied the spiritual mine. As for the players who assisted in the battle, the U.S. military also expressed that they would give a portion of the spirit ores as a token of gratitude. Initially, everything should have been over just like that. After all, the U.S. military was powerful and many civil organizations could not fight against them. That was the only way. However, another civilian organization appeared at that moment. They strongly requested the U.S. military to share the spirit mine for all players to use. Naturally, the U.S. military rejected the request in an overbearing manner. Therefore, this civilian organization that was weak in the eyes of the U.S. military declared war on the U.S. military. What the U.S. military did not expect was that this organization was so powerful. Although they did not have a lot of people, every player in this organization owned a modified mech. In terms of individual combat ability, it could be said that the U.S. military was much stronger than them. What gave the U.S. military a headache was that the strength of this organization was gradually growing. They recruited a large number of casual players, and their strength could be said to be increasing day by day. They had become a threat to the U.S. military. At that moment, in the ruined square to the north of the Blue Valley Ruins, the players piled up a long time ago as a fence around the field. Although this kind of defense would not be of any use against the powerful monster force, at least it could give the players some comfort. The central area of the field was filled with all kinds of mechanical parts. The modification cabins were also opened. Electric sparks were flashing in the interior. Many players were busy modifying the mech. Among them, the most eye-catching one was a giant mech that was nearly 10 meters tall and a close combat mech that was shining with a blue luster in the central area. "Tesla, how is it?" At that moment, Eric, who was standing below, shouted at Tesla, who was busy climbing up the fortress. Hearing the shout from below, Tesla jumped down from the mech and landed steadily. "No, we are too short of resources. We need a lot of soul coins to buy the shop's blueprints to further strengthen and modify the mech. Moreover, we are also too short of spirit mines." Tesla seemed a little helpless. Eric heard him and smiled. We can buy soul coins from the players. Although the quantity is not much, it is more than enough to support the modification of both of us. However, as for the spirit mines, we still have to seize them from the military. Eric seemed to have seen the hesitation in Tesla's eyes. He smiled again and said, "This is just a game. The resources here belong to everyone. You don't have to feel guilty about being their enemy here. If it were in reality, I wouldn't dare to do it either." Tesla heard him, and after a moment of silence, he nodded his head vigorously. At this stage, the only small spirit mine that they had discovered was occupied by the U.S. military. It seemed like there was no other way but to fight for it with force. "Don't worry, it doesn't matter if we lose. Moreover, we might not necessarily lose. Although their military is strong, we have an advantage here that they don't have." Eric pointed at his head as he spoke. Just as Eric had said, he obviously would not dare to go against the U.S. military in reality. However, it was different here because this was just a game. After playing this game, Eric also understood why Tesla was so fond of this game. It was because there were indeed a lot of black technology hidden in this game that did not exist in reality. Therefore, Eric was also addicted to the game like Tesla. As a research maniac, Eric also encountered a headache when he was doing research in the game. That was the lack of resources. Therefore, after the U.S. military occupied the small spirit mine, he was tempted. Therefore, he also established an organization called Black Light here. The purpose was to fight against the U.S. military and obtain more resource points. Relying on the large amount of modification technology in his hands, Eric quickly attracted a large number of players. He even pulled many combat personnel in reality into the game to help him expand his forces. Coupled with the addition of many players who were dissatisfied with the U.S. military's overbearing behavior, the Black Light organization grew and expanded at an extremely fast speed. Although it was still not enough to fight against the U.S. military, it had a certain say. During this period, they had already fought with the U.S. military several times. Although they were defeated in the large-scale battles, they basically won the small-scale battles. There was even a time when the U.S. military was transporting spiritual ores and looted quite a number of spiritual ores. At this time, the Black Light organization had become a thorn in the side of the U.S. military. However, Eric did not care about this. After all, this was just a game. The U.S. military could not threaten him. The other players thought the same. They felt that this was just a game. Robbing the U.S. military was very exciting, and they did not feel uneasy at all. Looking around at the researchers who were helping the players modify their mechs, Eric nodded subconsciously. He was very satisfied with the rapid growth of this force. Late at night, Lu Wu, who was sleeping soundly, was awakened by the ding-ding-ding sound of Bailey knocking on the bowl beside his ear. Lu Wu, who had just woken up, looked a little confused. He then turned his head to look at Bailey, who was still knocking on the bowl at the head of his bed. "It's late at night. Are you hungry again?" "No, I just wanted to wake you up and show you something," Bailey said mysteriously. Lu Wu, on the other hand, looked helpless. "What is it? Did something happen to me in the game?" Bailey put down her bowl and chopsticks. She then chuckled and waved her hand. Suddenly, a panel appeared in front of Lu Wu. Eric, player. Gender, male, age, 29. Player details. The behind-the-scenes leader of the Jieda Technology Company. The person with the highest authority in the Jieda's underground human experiment. Since young, he has shown many extraordinary abilities and won many science and technology innovation award. After graduation, he was recruited by the U.S. military to intern in the military's experimental base. After a short internship, he quit his job and disappeared from the world. In reality, he has built his own research lab and began to study the expansion of science, technology, biology, and other fields. Player characteristics: extremely high IQ. Possesses strong research and innovation abilities. He is a rare top talent. Player personality: ambitious, paranoid, proud, and conceited. Player status: normal. Lu Wu, who was initially listless, suddenly became energetic after seeing Eric's information. After all, Lu Wu had been unhappy with Eric for a long time. Wu, this is a talent. The artifact rated him as a genius, so he must be a real genius. He is a useful person. I didn't expect him to become a player. Isn't this like walking into a trap? Bailey said with a smile. Lu Wu could not help but pout. The artifact also said that this guy is very ambitious. Although his soul has been branded, people like him will not stay put. Bailey nodded after hearing that. But he has already become a player. What should we do? Should we kill him? Lu Wu was stunned when he heard Bailey say kill him. After all, he had never killed any player before. Hence, Bailey's suggestion made Lu Wu hesitate. After thinking for a moment, Lu Wu suddenly smiled. He's a genius. Just suppress him a little. At the same time, Eric, who was at the field east of the Blue Valley ruins, was still discussing with Tesla on how to strengthen their advantage in technology. After strengthening their strength, they would be able to defeat the American military. As he learned more about the game, Eric realized that his specialty could be perfectly displayed here. At this moment, he was full of confidence. He felt that with his hard work, he could definitely become stronger than the American military. Looking at Eric, who was talking big, Tesla kept nodding his head. He seemed to agree with Eric's point of view. At this moment, Eric suddenly disappeared in front of him. At the same time, the game notification rang in Eric's ears. Game notification: you have been banned for 3 days. You are now forced to go offline. Eric was speechless. Chapter 324. This wave of titles caught Eric off guard. At this moment, he was completely dumbfounded. In disbelief, he tried to log into the game again, only to realize that his account was still banned for 3 days. This infuriated Ari. Although it was only 3 days, he did not even know why his account was banned. Naturally, he was furious. He immediately logged into the official forum and wanted to argue with the customer service. The customer service hotline of Battle Online was almost like a decoration. Basically, no players would contact the customer service. Therefore, it was set up in a small corner at the bottom of the official website, which made Eric search for it. After clicking on the customer service button, a dialog box popped up. Customer service no. And, hello, how can I help you? Eric. My account was banned for no reason. I want to know why it was banned. Did you make a mistake? Customer service no. N. Checking your account, customer service no. N. Inquiry completed, no reason found. Eric became even angrier when he heard that the customer service could not find a reason for the ban. Eric. Then why aren't you unbanning me? Customer service no. N. I'm sorry I can't. Laughing emoji. Eric. Why? Customer service no. N. Everything is destined. I can't say it. Laughing emoji. Eric was speechless. Eric. Angry emoji. I want to file a complaint. What kind of attitude is that? Customer service no. N. Alright, thank you for your feedback. Have a nice life. The chat has been hung up. This was the first time Eric saw such an arrogant customer service in a game. He was furious and immediately began to look for a complaint and account appeal channel on the official website of Battle Online. However, after a careful search, Eric realized that the official website of Battle Online did not have an account appeal channel. There was not even a complaint channel. This made Eric completely dumbfounded. Was Battle Online so capricious? Eric was stunned. However, Eric was definitely unwilling to give up just like that. His subordinate, the Blacklight organization, was now at war with the American military. He was a crucial existence. Although it was only 3 days, he could do a lot in these 3 days. He had to go online as soon as possible. Therefore, Eric pinned his last hope on the official forum, hoping to use the power of public opinion to help him unban. He first logged into the game and took a screenshot of the game's banned account notification. Then, he opened a post on the most popular forum. My account was banned for no reason. The official website of Battle Online did not give any explanation. Does anyone know the reason? I hope everyone can help me. Attached picture. Eric's post immediately caused a sensation on the forums. After all, in the past 6 months, there had never been a case where a player's account had been banned. A large wave of people from the various forums surged in one after another, wanting to see what had happened. Crayon_Shinchan. Tisk TSK. That's amazing. OP, you've achieved the first title in the server. But I'm curious what kind of tricks you used to make the bewitching group ban your account. Laughing emoji. Surely_the_strongest. OP, please tell us how you did it so that we can avoid it in advance. Thank you. Laughing emoji. Invincible_loneliness. Did the original poster use a cheat in the game and the genius group found out? Otherwise, I don't believe that his account would be banned for no reason. Laughing emoji. Roasting Chong E while hugging the jade rabbit. OP, it's good to cheat for a while, but it's always good to cheat. Laughing emoji. Natural disaster flag. OP is still asking us why? Don't you have any F***king idea? I don't believe that the evildoers would ban your account for no reason. Star_universe. Europe, although your account was banned, it also proves your strength. Now, you can't even enter the game with the script plugins activated. At least you managed to enter. You're very strong. Laughing emoji. Iron Hammer_commander. If you didn't use a cheat, it means that you might have spread that kind of thing in the game. OP, lend me some resources. Then, I'll admit that you're righteous. Laughing emoji. Eric was so angry that his liver was hurting when he saw the players' comments. It could be said that the players were just watching the show and had no intention of helping him at all. What made him feel even more incredulous was that his forum mailbox was full after a short while. After he opened it, he realized that it was filled with players asking where they could buy a cheat or what he did to get his account banned. They wanted him to be careful so that his account would not be banned. There were even a few ZZ players who were asking for resources. Eric almost exploded in anger. He immediately cleared all the emails in his mailbox. Looking at the requests for help that were continuously being pushed to the top, Eric suddenly felt helpless. After all, Battle Company was too mysterious. He couldn't find anything and Eric felt that he didn't know where to start. Otherwise, if they dared to treat him like this, Eric would definitely send out his subordinates modified warriors to let the behind-the-scenes team of Battle Company know what it meant to be domineering. After opening the gaming chamber, Eric walked out with a gloomy expression and walked toward his office. Actually, Eric had investigated the situation of Battle Company before. However, after all the information about Battle Company was compiled, he could only come to one conclusion. That was, other than Wu Guori, the boss of Team 173, who had contact with the behind-the-scenes person, the rest of the information could be said to be blank. Wu Guori didn't even know the address of Battle Company. Eric wasn't surprised about this after he came into contact with and understood the game. After all, the technology in this game was obviously way beyond reality. He had also treated Battle Company as an underground organization like himself. However, Eric was still unwilling to give up. He decided to thoroughly investigate Battle Company again. He didn't believe that he couldn't find anything. As long as he could find any useful information, he would have a way to take down this underground organization. This was because he had full confidence in the power that he had mastered. It was an extraordinary power that was beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. At this time, Lu Wu naturally saw Eric's complaint post, but he didn't think much of it. Although Eric was a rare genius, he was also an unforgivable villain. It was because of his selfish desires that he established the underground organization of the Jieda Corporation and even used living people as experimental subjects. Lu Wu, who had a very upright view of the world, had long been unhappy with him. If it wasn't for the fact that he was a useful person, Lu Wu would have permanently banned him. Lu Wu's permanent ban was not as simple as not being able to play games. After all the players' souls were actually under Lu Wu's control. Even if the players died, their souls would still belong to Lu Wu. In other words, if it was really a permanent ban, the soul would be equivalent to being imprisoned in the artifact forever. There wouldn't even be a chance for reincarnation. Unless Lu Wu took the initiative to kill him, otherwise, he would never be able to make a comeback. Lu Wu even felt that Eric should thank him. After all, he was too kind as an authority dog. After closing the forum, Lu Wu looked at Bailey. At this time, Bailey rested her cheeks on her hands. She looked like she was thinking about something with a serious look on her face. However, the crystal at the corner of her mouth made Lu Wu seriously suspect that Bailey might be fantasizing about eating. "How is it? Have you considered the new settings of the Asia server?" Bailey heard him and suddenly came back to her senses. She reached out her hand to wipe the crystal at the corner of her mouth and said seriously, "The general direction is almost done, but the specific implementation still needs some time." Lu Wu listened and nodded. In fact, Wu Guoyi had urged him several times about the opening of the Asia server. The popularity of Battle Online could be said to be global. A large number of in-game videos were circulating on various video websites, attracting the attention of many players. Many players in the Asia server could not wait any longer. However, there was still no news about the opening of the Asia server. This led to a large number of players from Japan, Korea and other countries coming to the official forum to give feedback, hoping to speed up the opening of the Asia server. They even suggested that since everyone was in Asia, they might as well change the original server to the Asia server. Lu Wu naturally had nothing to think about. Although he did not reply, he had already rejected the idea in his heart. However, the opening of the Asia server and the non-Chinese server was inevitable. Recently, the main reason why Wu Guoyi had been urging Lu Wu to open the server was that a large number of agents had come knocking on his door. Ever since Bailey changed the signal on Lu Wu's phone, it could be said that other than a few people, no one else could contact Lu Wu. Therefore, the game agents who thought that they could gain a lot of benefits from this game could only look for Wu Guoyi, hoping to get the agency rights from Lu Wu through Wu Guoyi. During this period of time, Wu Guoyi and his assistant's phone had exploded with calls. Wu Guoyi had even changed his phone number several times, but he was still harassed by the game agents who had obtained his number through various channels. Lu Wu was helpless about Wu Guoyi's complaints. Perhaps in Wu Guoyi's eyes, Lu Wu was short of money and only wanted to focus on the game. Therefore, he did not care about the opening of the new server. However, how could Lu Wu not care about it? After all, the more players there were and the stronger the players were, the more soul coins he could earn. Especially after he started the cultivation of the divine body treasure, Lu Wu felt that he was still short of soul coins. Of course, he hoped that the game could achieve greater development. However, the setting of the Asia server was not perfect yet, and it could not meet the conditions to open it. The only problem was the setting of the new growth mode. What Lu Wu wanted was for each server to have its own growth characteristics. The Chinese server took the cultivation growth mode of the integration of the body and soul. The European server took the growth mode of the main body and the secondary element. The Naraka server took the growth mode of the technology side. 3 different growth modes would naturally cast 3 completely different armies. They would be able to play different roles in the war that might happen in the future. Even if the technology side was relatively weak, its future potential was limitless. As for the setting of the Asia server's growth mode, Bailey gave 2 suggestions at the current stage. The first was the growth mode of the gene lock, which was an evolutionary path. The experience gained, soul power, would be used to modify the genes, unlock the gene lock step by step, and obtain the powerful strength from the gene feedback. This growth mode could even allow the players to transform into various non-human forms in the later stages. After all, this was a change in the gene sequence. Moreover, Bailey's ability could allow the players to evolve in this aspect without causing the players' genes to collapse. The second plan was the development of the Shikigami, ninjutsu, and other technical streams. This growth mode was mainly set based on the Japanese mythological system. As for how to choose, Lu Wu finally decided to choose the former, which was the evolution path of the gene lock, after some consideration. After all, the development potential of this path was very huge. In the later stages, the players could also obtain the power to fight against the gods, or even become strong enough to kill the gods. This was something that Bailey was sure of. The difference was that the main growth mode of the three realms, heaven, human, and Een, was the growth mode of the integration of the body and soul. Therefore, this growth mode was very perfect compared to the other mode. The other growth modes were not without potential. It was just that the three realms that Lu Wu was in had not developed these growth modes on a deeper level. Moreover, Bailey mentioned that she had once seen an extraterrestrial civilization that walked the path of technology side compete with the gods. In the end, the gods were defeated. Although Lu Wu was very curious about where Bailey had seen it. However, whenever Lu Wu asked these questions, Bailey would act dumb with a blank face. She looked like she did not understand where she was, who she was, or what he was talking about. Chapter 325. Baki, Barren Grassland. The army led by Sun came from the west and slowly stepped into Baki's territory. In fact, the 9 luminaries were very helpless when they announced the war with Baki. They thought that the forces of Baki would cherish the opportunities they had given, but they did not expect that Baki's hostility towards them had never weakened and they were still unwilling to surrender. Therefore, the impatient 9 luminaries finally decided to use force. At the same time, after some discussion, the 9 luminaries decided to let Sun, who was ranked 3rd, replace Yu Yao as the king of Baki. Each of the brothers even sent a group of subordinates to join the Sun army led by Sun, with the goal of helping Sun become the king of Baki. Before the war, Sun learned about the current scale of Baki's forces from the messenger. According to the messenger, Baki was not strong at the current stage, and the most difficult to deal with were the warriors of Yu Yao's original subordinates, the Moon Army. Sun could not understand why the Moon Army refused to return. After all, the members of the Moon Army were very clear about the strength of the land of the 9 luminaries, and they had no chance of winning if they resisted. Although he believed that the Moon Army was showing their loyalty to Yu Yao, he did not believe that every general would fight to the death to defend Baki. While he was thinking about this problem, the army led by Glorious Sun slowly advanced toward the land of buried bones. Meanwhile, in the mansion of the dead, the players were also preparing for the war. All the players attached great importance to this war. Even many lifestyle players joined in the battle, even providing all kinds of consumable pills and potions at cost price. After all, the mansion of the dead was their home. Naturally, they would not allow their home to be trampled by foreign enemies. They also wanted to do their part. Among them, the most popular item was the explosive pills made by the alchemist Niefeng. Niefeng had accumulated a large number of explosive pills after countless failures. Initially, the players were not interested in this kind of item. Although it was powerful, it was a one-time consumable item after all, and it was very expensive. On the contrary, they thought that the explosive pills made by Niefeng were of little value. However, it was different now. The crisis of Baki had arrived, and the outcome of failure was unacceptable to most players. Moreover, Niefeng only charged the cost price for the pills he sold this time. Hence, a large number of players came to buy them, and soon, all the explosive pills he made were sold out. Even Niefeng was very surprised. He didn't expect that these pills, which had failed miserably, could still recover their costs. At the same time, the players of Baki had realized the importance of spiritual minds after the class of blacksmiths was activated. Now that most of the players had changed their professions to blacksmiths, the price of spiritual ores in Baiki had skyrocketed. In just a few days, it could be said to have doubled. This made many players regret selling all the spirit ores they had plundered in the auction house, leaving them with no usable spirit ores, because the spirit ore was too useful. Now, aside from helping many players who had just advanced to the forger class, it had also become an important strategic resource. Compared to an alchemist, which was a lifestyle profession that players had to start from scratch, a blacksmith was completely different. This was because an extremely small portion of players had blacksmithing experience in the real world, just like Lin Tai O Tian and the others. Although they had yet to mature, they would be able to play a significant role in this battle. Relying on the many blueprints of the war machines they bought from the shop, they had already begun to build war machines. It wasn't that it was impossible to purchase war machines in the shop, but that the prices of the large-scale machines in the shop were exorbitant, and most players couldn't afford them. However, if they were to build it themselves, their performance might not be comparable to the ones in the shop, but the price would only be 1/5 of the price in the shop. The value of a blacksmith was reflected at this moment. As the 9 luminaries' army approached, the news quickly spread among the players. The players who were originally scattered in various areas of Baiki had also rushed back to the Mansion of the Dead, ready to face the attack of the 9 luminaries' army. For this battle, the players had chosen the burial grounds as the place where they would fight would not destroy the ecology of the Mansion of the Dead. At the same time, they could quickly join the battle after they were resurrected. In the players' opinion, it was the most suitable place for the battle. Soon, the army of players gathered at the entrance of the Mansion of the Dead and headed toward the burial grounds in units of their respective guilds or squads. The war was imminent, and the players were not worried about death at all. The only worry they had was the loss of the Mansion of the Dead and the loss of their home in the second world. After all, many players already had feelings for this place, and they would never allow such a situation to happen. The two armies marched opposite each other, and after about 2 hours of marching, they finally met at the burial grounds. Seeing the arrival of the forces of Baiki, Sun was a little surprised. He initially thought that the forces of Baiki would hide in the Mansion of the Dead, but he did not expect them to have the courage to take the initiative to attack. However, a smile appeared on Sun's face because this was exactly what he wanted. As long as they were willing to leave the city, he was 100% sure that he could quickly seize the Mansion of the Dead. At this moment, the Baiki players had a determined look on their faces as they marched forward with firm steps. The densely packed 9 luminaries' army in the distance did not scare them at all. Seeing that the players were taking the initiative to approach, Sun sneered and immediately levitated into the air. Roar! Thousands of beasts roared, and all the warriors of the 9 luminaries' army raised their weapons, trying to overwhelm the players with their imposing manner. However, the players continued to advance without any change in their expressions. There was no need for too many words in this battle. When the distance between them was shortened, the rune warriors in the front row began to flash in red light, and they began to run. Roar! Kill! The players used their actions to retaliate against the provocation of the 9 luminaries' army. So weak! Seeing that the players had begun to attack, the 9 luminaries sneered and pressed down with their hands. Suddenly, the roars of beasts spread from the front to the back, echoing throughout the entire burial ground. At this moment, the 9 luminaries' army also began to charge forward, and the bloody collision between the two armies began. At this moment, the players were no longer the naive newbies they used to be. They were already familiar with the battlefield, and they had become more mature and courageous than before. Brothers, the Mansion of the Dead is our home. We have too many beautiful memories here. Regardless of the outcome of today's battle, we must not regret it in the future. Roar! The runic masters at the very front collided violently with the beast iron cavalry. The point of collision was like a domino, spreading out to both sides for dozens of meters. Even the sturdy beasts could not withstand the Rune Master's all-out attack under the activation of the power gem. They fell to the ground in droves, and the warriors on their backs were flung away. In the first confrontation, even the powerful 9 luminaries' army did not have the slightest advantage. However, this was just the beginning. The battle had officially begun. At this moment, Sun, who was floating in the air, looked coldly at the Baki players below. Although he was surprised that they dared to resist him, he did not have the slightest doubt about the victory of this battle because he was confident that he would win. Sun took out a purple necklace from his neck. With a gentle tug, he pulled out a gem from the groove of the necklace. Then, his figure flashed and appeared at the back of the 9 luminaries' army. He crushed the diamond-shaped gem in his hand. Suddenly, the gem shone with a dazzling light. The trajectory of the law of space was formed, shrouding the warriors of the 9 luminaries' army and Sun below. Then, their figures disappeared and appeared outside the mansion of the dead. This was the reason why Sun was confident that he could take down the mansion of the dead quickly. From the player's point of view, choosing the burial ground as the battle point was very advantageous for them. However, this was exactly what Sun wanted to see. This was because the last time the emissary came to Baki to persuade them to surrender, he had already made a teleportation mark outside the city. Knowing that a war might break out, the players were not the only ones who planned for this. Sun was also prepared for it. This space law crystal that he obtained by chance was very precious. However, it was insignificant compared to the position of His Excellency. Hence, he did not feel bad about losing it. At this time, other than the players who were on standby in the Mansion of the Dead, there was no one else stationed in the city. Moreover, most of them were lifestyle players. Altogether, there were only 50,000 of them. The players who were watching at the city gate were shocked when they saw the sudden arrival of hundreds of thousands of Moon Yao army. They immediately sounded the alarm at the city gate to alert the players in the city. Even Lu Wu was caught unprepared by the arrival of the 9 luminaries. Enter the city. Looking down at the empty mansion of the dead, Sun's face was filled with the joy of victory. After hearing Sun's order, the warriors of the 9 luminaries' army roared and charged into the mansion of the dead. Then, they began to smash the city gate, trying to break it open and enter. At this moment, the players who were stationed in the city gathered at the city gate. No one expected the 9 luminaries to suddenly arrive with hundreds of thousands of soldiers. At this moment, their hearts were filled with fear. They were not afraid of death, but of losing the mansion of the dead. Boom! At this moment, the city gate was smashed open. Countless warriors of the 9 luminaries swung their weapons and swarmed in. Sun nodded in satisfaction as he glanced at the buildings in the mansion of the dead. In his opinion, this was his future territory, and he was very satisfied with the environment of the mansion of the dead. Seeing the players approaching from afar, Sun extended his hand and pressed forward. At this moment, the space seemed to freeze. The players who were running at the front were all pressed to the ground by the immense pressure. I've already won. Your struggles will only bring you death. However, I'm very merciful. I can give you a way out, Sun said with a smile as he looked at the players in front of him. I'll also give you a way out. Kneel down and admit your mistake. The mansion of the dead will never be handed over to you. Fight me head-on if you have the guts. What's there to be proud of with tricks? The players responded stubbornly. However, Sun couldn't help but burst into laughter when he heard the players' comments. I have to say that you guys are really childish. I'm starting to doubt how your forces grew so strong. The law of the underworld is survival of the fittest. Don't you understand that? Or are you joking with me? Hearing this, the players fell silent. Now that they were familiar with the law of survival in this world, they understood that what Sun said was not wrong at all. Looking at the players in front of him who couldn't move, Sun suddenly widened his eyes. A red ray shot out from his eyes and streaked forward. In an instant, some of the players were swept by the red ray and turned into ashes. I believe that fear will make you submit. Sun snapped his fingers as he spoke. Immediately, some of the players were swept by the red ray that was still hovering in the air, and turned into ashes. Chapter 326. This, the Law of Darkness. Their hearts skipped a beat when they heard the news. Then, endless anger surged in their chests. However, Tong Gua did not feel good watching them die, because he was already familiar with these neighbors and many of them were good friends. They would not blame him even if he was afraid to fight or run away. The players loved and hated Tong Gua at the same time. He was one of the few NPCs they were most familiar with. Although this was a game, Tong Gua gave them a feeling that he was not just an NPC, but a living, breathing life. Land of the 9 luminaries, we will come. We will make you afraid. Today's revenge will be avenged one day. It's over. Since you're not willing to surrender, then die. At this moment, Sun did not summon the players to surrender. He seemed to be enjoying the players' struggle before their death. Come back, I beg you, come back! Their shouts echoed in the live chat channel, completely shocking the players who were fighting with the 9 luminaries' army in the burial ground. He immediately turned his head and looked in the direction of the destructive aura. Sun, I won't stop until I get my revenge. If one day isn't enough, I'll do it for a month. If 1 month isn't enough, I'll do it for a year. If not, I'll do it for the rest of my life. I'll fight you until the end of time. The pain brought to Tong Gua by the constant deaths of his friends below was far more intense than the physical pain. To Sun, the forces of Beiki in the burial ground were vulnerable. If they did not surrender, he could just destroy them. With the help of his brothers, he would definitely become the king. Boom. At this moment, there were no more hostile forces inside and outside the mansion of the dead. He had complete control over the mansion of the dead. The pressure on the tens of thousands of players also disappeared at this moment. At this moment, the NPCs raised their weapons and charged toward the warriors of the 9 luminaries' army. NPCs were different from players. They did not have a way to grow by killing monsters. Other than a few NPCs who were blessed by Lu Wu's soul power, there were very few who had combat power. However, they still chose to resist. How could he not have any thoughts about power? However, with his big brother suppressing him, he would never be able to rise to power. They could not accept the fact that they would have to erect tombstones for Tong Gua and their dead friends after this battle. Roar! The beast cavalrymen roared as they charged at the NPCs. However, he didn't see the terrified expressions of the players that he wanted to see. All he saw were gazes filled with hatred and determined faces. Because the enemy was slaughtering their friends and family. At this moment, the players were completely enraged. All the players were extremely aggrieved. Tong Gua could not stand the feeling of watching them fall without being able to protect them. The mansion of the dead was the players' home, but it was also their home. It was the players' responsibility to protect their home. Everything was so beautiful, and Sun Yao seemed to be enjoying himself very much. Hearing the words of the players before they died, Ri Yao's expression was indifferent. Only when the last player turned into ashes did he reveal a joyful smile. Just you wait for our revenge. Today, you killed my friends and family, but in the future, I will slaughter your entire clan. At this moment, it dissipated with the wind, fading away. The eyes of the tens of thousands of players who were suppressed on the ground turned red when they saw this scene. At this moment, they were reminded of their dead friends. All the players stood up immediately and glared angrily at the hundreds of thousands of 9 luminaries warriors who were slaughtering the NPCs. When the last figure of the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King turned into ashes and dissipated, only endless hatred flashed in the eyes of the players below. With a deafening bang, the ground shook uncontrollably. The entire sky was instantly shrouded in black light. At the mansion of the dead. F*CKU, I, Tong Gua, am angry. At this moment, 2 more figures appeared in the crowd. They were the Hydra King and the Rock Ghost King. Go back to the mansion of the dead. Lu Chai roared in the live chat channel with bloodshot eyes. Go back to the mansion of the dead. The mansion of the dead has fallen. Many of our friends have left, including Tong Gua. Although they wanted to tear the enemies in front of them into pieces, they had no other choice now that the mansion of the dead had fallen. The players below did not want to believe this was real. As the red light in his eyes swept across the people below, the players turned into ashes one by one. Tong Gua was instantly sent flying, but the terrifying power was still reverberating in his body. His body gradually cracked in the air, and finally turned into ashes bit by bit. However, there was no way the 9 Luminaries' army would let the players leave so easily. They chased after the players, making it extremely difficult for them to retreat. Popular Science PS. Back when the Qing army marched all the way south, the 8 Banners army was like a hot knife cutting through butter. When they arrived at Jiangyin County, they announced the surrender order and the hair-cutting order. However, the people in the county firmly believed that their bodies, hair, and skin belonged to their parent. They were even more unwilling to be slaves, so they vowed to die rather than obey. This infuriated the Qing generals, and they led their troops to attack Jiangyin. However, in the face of the menacing Qing army and the inevitable loss of the battle, none of the people of Jiangyin surrendered. On the first day alone, there were more than 10,000 casualties, but they defended Jiangyin for a total of 81 days. On the last day of the city's fall, all the men in the city continued to fight the enemy to the death. The women in the city chose to commit suicide by hanging themselves, jumping into rivers, and jumping into wells. Until the end, no one surrendered. It could be said that the people of Jiangyin were already prepared to perish together with the enemy. In the end, the Qing army obtained an empty city. In this battle, they even killed 3 princes and 18 generals of the Qing army despite the fact that the enemy was stronger than them. Such a tragic act showed the unyielding spirit of the Han people. They were players and they could be resurrected after death. This was the biggest crisis they had ever encountered, the only time the mansion of the dead was completely lost. However, they could not go back to protect their homeland at this time. This feeling of helplessness was something they had never felt before. Figures kept falling under the iron cavalry of the 9 Luminaries' army. The battle was almost a one-sided massacre, with a large number of NPCs lying in pools of blood. However, things were different now. He was about to become an abyssal prefect. After receiving the great emperor's blessing, he would gain great strength and a voice in the underworld. However, the journey back to the mansion of the dead would take more than an hour. The players could only pray that their family and friends in the mansion of the dead would survive while they fought with all their might. Humph! Upon hearing this, Dazzling Sun's eyes flashed fiercely. He grabbed Tong Gua from the ground and punched Tong Gua's chest. At this moment, the air suddenly froze. An evil and destructive aura came from not far away, causing Dazzling Sun's nerves to tense up. Please don't talk to me with your excretory organ. It's very rude. Thank you, cough. Tong Gua smiled weakly with half-squinted eyes. Tong Gua's death was also a great shock to them. It reminded them of the time when they followed the king of Baiki to attack cities and plunder lands. At that time, it was also like this, where old friends died one after another in battle. It's not over yet, Dazzling Sun. You're very powerful. How about pledging your loyalty to me? Dazzling Sun smiled as he looked at the weak Tong Gua. Just like Lu Mo, Fat Chef, and the others, only Hero's Mound was left after that battle. Seeing Tong Gua's figure flitting across the sky and gradually disappearing, the players below were stunned on the spot. In the area where the Rock Apothecary Guild was located, a beam of black light shot up into the sky. Then, the black light spread in all directions at an extremely fast speed, engulfing the surrounding buildings and all of his subordinates. Many of them were lifestyle NPCs. Although they were not strong in combat, they took the lead. You're really annoying. Following Dazzling Sun's words, he reached out and grabbed Tong Gua's neck. Then, he suddenly descended and smashed Tong Gua to the ground. A figure suddenly shot out from the crowd and slammed into Dazzling Sun's body. The figure dragged Dazzling Sun all the way back, plowing a deep trench on the ground. After being slapped away again and again, Tong Gua flapped his wings and clamored to charge forward. At this moment, Tong Gua was still the rascal and ruffian, but there was now a sense of determination and madness in him that made people respect him. Taking a deep breath, Dazzling Sun's body floated in the air. He slowly opened his arms, as if he was feeling something. His face looked intoxicated. The NPCs also had their own thoughts and feelings. They were also afraid of death, but at this moment, they still raised their weapons and charged toward the invaders with determination. Kill! The players charged toward the soldiers of Dazzling Sun's army. Although he knew that the NPCs below could be resurrected by Lu Wu, he did not dare to kill them. In the sky, Tong Gua and Dazzling Sun were fighting desperately. The speed of the black light was so fast that even Dazzling Sun could not dodge it. They were Tong Gua's best friends. Although they often ridiculed each other and made fun of each other, they treated each other as true friends. Even if random arrival strength could not fight against Dazzling Sun, the timid and cowardly Tong Gua still chose to be brave for once. They hated this kind of parting, but they only hoped that they could live well, especially Yi Chun, Lu Chai, and the others who were fighting the enemies. Although Dazzling Sun had killed the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King, his clothes were torn and he looked extremely miserable. After killing Tong Gua, Dazzling Sun looked at the players who were still struggling with a mocking expression, enjoying the helplessness and anger on their faces. Not only the players, but the NPCs were also red-eyed. They used their blood and their lives to firmly defend the mansion of the dead, to defend the land that they called home. Today we will follow the example of the ancestors of Jiangyin and fight against the enemies. We will defend the city with our lives and fight to the death. A player roared angrily in the live chat channel. However, in their eyes, Tong Gua and the others were different. They were NPCs and they could not be resurrected after they died. However, Dazzling Sun was a Ghost Emperor, while the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King were only Ghost Kings. They had not even reached the peak of the Ghost King realm. The difference in strength between them and Dazzling Sun was too great. The mansion of the dead could be rebuilt, but if they were gone, they would be gone forever. The players did not want to build a hero's mound for them like they did in the past. At this moment, countless figures appeared in the mansion of the dead again. They looked determined and walked toward Dazzling Sun with determined step. The soldiers of Beiki are not cowards who are afraid of death. Therefore, he made his move. However, luck was always unreliable. He still did not have the combat strength of a Ghost Emperor that could rival Dazzling Sunday, kill them. Seeing these figures, Dazzling Sun was a little surprised. Then, a mocking expression appeared on his face as he snapped his fingers. In the end, Lu Chai gave the order to fight to the death. At the same time, he ordered nearly half of the players at the back to support them. They would resist the advance of the 9 Luminaries' army. At this moment, all the players' eyes instantly turned red. After a while, Dazzling Sun seemed to be tired of looking at them. The red light in his eyes flowed again. Chapter 327. 1 hour ago, the alarm of an enemy invasion sounded in the mansion of the dead. Frightened, the players garrisoned in the city began to swarm toward the city's entrance. At this time, Nie Feng was still refining exploding pills in the Solid Rock Alchemy Association. Due to the need of war, Nie Feng's exploding pills had become an extremely popular strategic item. However, he was only one person after all, and his energy was limited. At the same time, he wasn't strong enough to participate in the battle. Therefore, he stayed here under the request of the various guilds to continuously refine exploding pills for the warriors who participated in the battle. However, the sudden arrival of the 9 Brilliance army led by Glorious Sun had truly shocked Nie Feng, who was still refining pills. However, this furnace of pills was already at the last step, and he still planned to go out and check the situation after he was done refining pills. Around 20 minutes later, along with the sound of an explosion, the refinement was completed. Niefeng hurriedly stored the 3 exploding pills that he had refined into the space, and then rushed outside. What he saw next left Niefeng dumbfounded. It was a one-sided massacre. A large number of players and NPCs fell under the sharp blades of the 9 Brilliance cavalry. Even his class mentor, the Rock Ghost King, was turned into ashes under Glorious Sun's powerful strength. All of this was too shocking for Niefeng. Looking at the familiar figures falling one after another, Niefeng was like the players who had died. He only had one thought in his mind, and that was to take revenge. Under such circumstances, Niefeng understood that even if the players who were fighting in the burial grounds rushed back, it would be useless because the situation was already hopeless. However, how could he be willing to hand over the mansion of the dead just like that? He gradually clenched his fist. Then, he turned around and returned to the Solid Rock Alchemy Association. He found the alchemy furnace that the Rock Ghost King used and poured all the medicinal ingredients stored in the space into the furnace. During this period of time, Niefeng had comprehended a principle while refining pills. The higher the grade of the medicinal ingredients, the stronger the medicinal effect would be. The stronger the medicinal effect, the stronger the explosion would be. With his current strength, he was no match for Glorious Sunday. All he could rely on were these medicinal ingredients. There was a total of more than 40,000 medicinal ingredients. These medicinal ingredients were stored by the various guilds for him to refine exploding pills. However, Niefeng couldn't care less about them. Right now, he only wanted to perish together with the Glorious Sun army. After the NPCs died in battle, Niefeng no longer had any concerns. He no longer had to worry about the explosion harming the innocent. He focused all his attention on alchemy. At this moment, the anger in Niefeng's heart was burning like the flames in the furnace. What even Niefeng did not notice was that while his emotions were fluctuating intensely, the traces of the law of darkness in his body were gradually becoming clearer. It was constantly absorbing the energy of darkness and pouring it into the fire, corroding the liquefying herbs in the flames. After more than 20 minutes of refining, cracks appeared on the cauldron, and various medicinal effects clashed wildly. Niefeng's eyes were bloodshot as he controlled the fusion of the medicinal liquid. However, with his ability, he simply couldn't find the equilibrium point for the fusion of 40,000 medicinal herbs. The clash between the medicinal liquids became more and more intense, and more law of darkness surged into the body. Everything went out of control, and even Niefeng thought that he had failed. The furnace exploded. With the support of the law of darkness, the energy produced by the conflict between the medicinal ingredients continued to rise, and it was filled with an aura of destruction. The scorching aura instantly vaporized everything in the surroundings. Even Niefeng, who was standing in front of the furnace, couldn't resist the erosion of this destructive energy and was instantly turned into dust. While this energy was dissipating, it continued to absorb the law of darkness in the surroundings, and the accumulated energy within it grew stronger and stronger. This gave Lu Wu a huge fright. After the fall of the Mansion of the Dead, although Lu Wu felt that it was a pity, he wasn't worried. At least the players wouldn't die, and Tong Gua and the others wouldn't really die either. The loss of the Mansion of the Dead was only temporary, and it would return to the players sooner or later. However, the destructive energy within the Rock Medicine Refinery Association scared him. This was because this energy was still expanding, and the space within the Rock Medicine Refinery Association had already cracked, and it was about to explode at any time. Lu Wu didn't even have the time to investigate the reason. He quickly stored the few important buildings in the Mansion of the Dead that were built with soul coins into the artifact. At this moment, the expanding destructive energy tore apart the space within the Rock Medicine Refinery Association, and the terrifying energy exploded in an instant. This energy, which was mainly made up of the law of darkness, was too powerful. In the blink of an eye, All the buildings in the mansion of the dead were devoured, and they instantly dissipated under the shroud of the black light. Even the soldiers under glorious sun couldn't escape from this disaster. They didn't even understand what was happening before they were obliterated by the black light. When the dazzling black light slowly dissipated, a black mushroom cloud rose above the mansion of the dead, and the ground shook violently. However, the shock wave of the explosion radiated in all directions, and the area of destruction expanded outwards. This was the power of the law of darkness, the power of heaven and earth that only the gods could control. Even Nye Fong didn't know that the law of darkness in his body would undergo such a magical change under the influence of his despair and anger. However, this power had completely gone out of control at this moment. Boom! With the explosion as the center, the ground began to collapse, and the crater in the central area continued to expand. The entire mansion of the dead was like a kingdom of God that had fallen into the abyss, and it disintegrated bit by bit. The aftermath of the explosion lasted for more than 10 minutes. When the raging dark energy dissipated, the mansion of the dead in front of them had already disappeared. All that was left was a circular crater. It could be said that the entire mansion of the dead had been completely wiped out by the explosion of the law of darkness. Lu Wu was completely dumbfounded when he saw this scene. Bei Li, who was beside him, also widened her eyes. She even forgot to lick the ice cream in her hand as she fell into a state of shock. At this moment, Lu Wu's emotions were extremely complicated. He didn't know what to say, and he didn't even want to speak at all. Even if the mansion of the dead fell into Glorious Sun's hands, it would definitely be taken back by the players who were growing rapidly. However, now it was blown up, gone. Not even a speck of it was left. Are you angry? Bei Li, who was beside him, seemed to have recovered from the shock. She stuck out her tongue and licked the ice cream as she asked. Lu Wu was speechless. Lu Wu was so angry that he couldn't speak. He knew that he had lost a lot of soul coins used for construction. Although the skill pavilion and the martyr's palace had been stored into the space, he had still lost more than 10 million soul coins in this explosion, even if he excluded those and the buildings built with Yin energy. At this moment, Lu Wu's heart was bleeding. He even had the urge to smash Nye Feng's head. He didn't expect this gentle-looking player to be so ruthless as to create a nuclear weapon and perish together with the enemy. Lu Wu really wanted to reward Nye Feng with a permanent title for his courage. Looking at Lu Wu, who was clenching his teeth in silence, Bei Li licked the ice cream and said, "Calm down, calm down." Lu Wu couldn't stay calm when he heard this. This kind of pain could not be shared with others. He could only bear it alone. It was too painful. Therefore, he snatched the ice cream from Bei Li's hand and took a big bite. Then, he looked at the dumbfounded Bei Li and said calmly, "Calm down, calm down." Sharing pain can indeed reduce the pain, Lu Wu thought to himself. He took another bite. Bei Li's little face gradually turned red. Then, she leaped up and headbutted Lu Wu's chest. "I'm going to kill you." Chapter 328. Both Lu Wu and Bei Li were heartbroken. Lu Wu was heartbroken because the mansion of the dead had been destroyed. Although he had enough money to rebuild it, he was still heartbroken. Bei Li was heartbroken because her ice cream was taken away and she couldn't eat it anymore. She was heartbroken and resentful. However, the mansion of the dead had been destroyed. What else could he do? Lu Wu's liver was in pain, however, the ice cream was taken away. What else could he do? Bei Li's stomach was in pain in the game. All the players who had rushed back from the burial ground saw a black mushroom cloud rising and spreading in the sky from afar. Their hearts skipped a beat. Thinking that it was Sun who was destroying the mansion of the dead, the players immediately rushed back. However, when the players arrived at the mansion of the dead, they were dumbfounded. There was no mansion of the dead, there was only a huge crater. Not even a trace of the mansion of the dead was left. The players were speechless. The players who witnessed the scene had mixed feelings. "There's someone here." At this moment, a sharp-eyed player noticed a figure curled up on the ground in the crater. The figure was still trembling. When the players saw this, they all leaped into the crater and approached the figure. After coming to the side of the figure, the players couldn't recognize who the bloody figure was, so they activated their analysis ability. Sun, Beginner Ghost Emperor. Character details. Third among the 9 brothers in the land of the 9 luminaries, in charge of the Chiosai Ridge in the west of the land of the 9 luminaries, subordinate to the Sun Army. Character characteristics. Cautious, intelligent character status. Near death, deteriorating, eroded by dark energy, deteriorating, 80% of body damage, irreparable. At this moment, lying on the ground, Ri Yao's body couldn't help but shiver. Vaguely, numerous black mists could be seen spreading and eroding his body. The arrival of the players alarmed Sunday. He turned his head weakly to look at the players surrounding him. His lips trembled as if he wanted to say something, but he couldn't make a sound. Instead, black blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Sun didn't expect the Baki force to be so ruthless. They actually hid such a terrifying dark trap to ambush him and even destroyed the entire city. Sun felt that he had made a mistake. The raid on the mansion of the dead was carefully planned by him. Even if the players didn't leave the city, he would pretend to be defeated or lure them out of the city to fight. Then, he would use the space crystal to sneak into the city and seize the mansion of the dead. Therefore, Sun was very happy when the players left the city for the battle because he thought he had already won. However, the outcome was out of his expectations. From Sun's point of view, he had fallen for the same trick. Perhaps the players had been waiting for him to enter the city and were even prepared to exchange the entire mansion of the dead for his life. How ruthless! Sun stared at the surrounding players. He wanted to speak, but he started vom. The black blood dripped onto the ground and made a sizzling sound of corrosion. Sunday Sun. The players were enraged after reading Sun's message. Although they didn't know why Sun was severely injured, they believed that Sun was the culprit behind the destruction of the mansion of the dead. Therefore, the angry players began to attack Sunday. With Glorious Sun as the center, the players formed a large circle around him and crazily threw skills at him, venting their anger. Sun was getting weaker and weaker under the players' crazy attack. He wouldn't be afraid of the players if he was at his peak. However, the power of the Dark Rule was eroding his body and he couldn't fight back at all. The power that was used to repair his body was messed up by the players' attacks. The damage caused by the Dark Rule was worsening. Sun. He coughed out more and more black blood. He was getting weaker and weaker. The red light in his eyes was slowly fading until it was extinguished. Ruthless. That was Sun's last thought before he died. He was very confident in the battle against Baki. He didn't expect it to end like this. The moment Sun died, a white light shone on the players around him. All of them leveled up. However, this wasn't what the players wanted. The mansion of the dead was gone. Their home was gone. Even the death of the Glorious Sun was not enough to alleviate the anger in their hearts. Therefore, they changed their direction and charged toward the burial ground. They wanted to continue fighting with the 9 Brilliance army and continue to vent their anger. The battle lasted for half a day. Although the players were all wiped out in the end, the 9 Luminaries' army also paid a heavy price. They lost almost 1/5 of their troop. Sun's death had shaken the morale of the 9 Luminaries' army. In the end, they didn't station their troops in Baki. Instead, they chose to retreat to the 9 Luminaries. After all, the purpose of this battle was for Sun to become His Excellency. Now that he was dead, there was no point for them to stay. After a discussion among the Ghost Kings of the 9 Luminaries' army, they decided to return to the land of the 9 Luminaries and report on the situation. After the battle, a thread was suddenly pinned to the top of the forum. Please let our dead friends return. We don't want this kind of parting. OP, invincible loneliness. There were countless players following the post. The most heartbreaking thing for the players wasn't the disappearance of the mansion of the dead, but the death of their NPC friends. The reason why the Mansion of the Dead was the home of the players was closely related to the existence of their NPC friend. The Mansion of the Dead could be rebuilt, but they didn't want their friends to leave just like that. Perhaps there would be new NPCs to replace them after they passed away. However, the players couldn't accept this because it meant that they had really passed away and would never appear again. The post was pinned on the main page of the official website by the players. Many of them even used a pleading tone, hoping that the people behind the battle could resurrect their friends. After reading the post, Lu Wu couldn't help but be moved. He understood what the players were thinking because Tong Gua and the others really existed. Although only a few people knew about this, the characters and behavior of the NPCs made the players feel that they were real beings instead of rigid artificial intelligence. Although Lu Wu could easily resurrect Tong Gua and the others, he wouldn't do so because he wouldn't cherish things that were too easy to obtain. However, he would create an opportunity for the players to work hard on their own. Hence, when the players went online again, the mission that Lu Wu had set up appeared. Unlocking mission, returning friends, server. Mission description: the NPCs of the Mansion of the Dead fought back and killed the enemies with all their might. However, the enemies were too powerful. In the end, they couldn't withstand the ruthless trampling of the enemy's iron cavalry and died defending the city. Under the call of all the players, the Returning Friends mission is now activated. Unlocking the mission will open the way to their resurrection. Mission objective: kill the enemies and obtain resurrection point. Each soldier of the 9 Luminaries army is equivalent to 1 point. Ghost Commander level 1,000 3,000 points, Ghost King level 5,000 32,000 points, Star Brilliance level 100,000 points. Randomly resurrect an NPC for every 10,000 points. Resurrected NPCs: none, 3,789 in total. This was the first time that a region-wide unlocking mission had appeared in the game. Although it was difficult, the players were very happy. The dark clouds in their hearts dissipated with the appearance of this mission. To the players, as long as Tong Gua and the others could be resurrected, it was better than anything else. Forum, Shirley_the_strongest. I'm so happy, let's work together to kill the enemies and resurrect our friends as soon as possible. Good luck. Roasting Chong E while hugging the jade rabbit. Having something to look forward to is better than anything else. I'll focus on the land of the 9 luminaries in the future. I want to kill to my heart's content. Happy emoji. Watermelon_taro. Sigh, I don't have a home anymore. I'll go online again to vent my anger in the land of the 9 luminaries and accumulate more points to resurrect my friends. Good luck. The players in the forum encouraged each other. They were full of confidence at this moment. They stared fiercely at the land of the 9 luminaries, preparing for their counterattack. However, at this moment, someone in the forum raised a question. Crayon_Shinchan. Didn't anyone notice a problem? How did the Mansion of the Dead disappear? If it was destroyed by Sun, why was Sun severely injured? But if it wasn't for Glorious Sun, the strongest player forces would be the Rock Ghost King and the Hydra King. Many players saw them being killed by Glorious Sunday. I'm very confused now. The reason for the explosion of the Mansion of the Dead and Sun's serious injuries. Chaos_splitting_wind_hammer. I was in the Mansion of the Dead at that time. I saw Tong Gua, the Rock Ghost King, and the Hydra King die with my own eyes. However, Sun wasn't injured at all. Even when I died, I didn't see any powerhouses appear to help me. I'm very confused too. Can anyone explain this? Confused emoji. Chili_winter_assault. I was the last one to die. I didn't see any other forces appear at that time. Confused emoji. Death ray. I'm confused. I always thought that the destruction of the Mansion of the Dead had something to do with Sunday. But now that I think about it, it doesn't seem right. Confused emoji. While the players were discussing, Niefeng, who was browsing through the posts, broke out in a cold sweat. After knowing that the NPCs could be resurrected, the anger in Nie Feng's heart had faded. Now there was only fear. He didn't know if he would become the public enemy of the players like who he if he revealed that he was the one who blew up the mansion of the dead in the forum. At this moment, his face was pale with fear. After all, Nie Feng didn't expect the explosion to be so terrifying. However, Nie Feng felt that he would be finished if he didn't tell the truth. The 40,000 medicinal herbs were given to him by the other guilds to refine explosive pills. They didn't belong to him at all. However, Nie Feng felt that he wouldn't be able to repay them even if he sold himself. For a moment, Nie Feng was struggling with his thoughts. Tell the truth. Hide the truth. Two thoughts were circling in his mind. At this moment, a message popped up on his friend list. Nie Feng subconsciously tapped on the message list and a few chat boxes appeared. Chunziu, Feng, how many explosive pills do you have now? I'm preparing to bring a team to sweep the land of the 9 luminaries. Smiling emoji. Lu Zhan, Boss Nie, stock up. Stock up. I have to say, your explosive pills are really useful. How many more do you have? Smiling emoji. Yi Shuer, Boss Nie, give me all the goods you have first. I need them urgently. The other guilds can wait for a while. Smiling emoji. Li Xiao, Feng, why don't you join our guild? I can buy all the goods you have by myself. I can also provide you with a large amount of medicinal herbs. Alright, how many more do you have? Don't sell them all. Leave some for me. Smiling emoji. Looking at the inquiries from the guild leaders in the chat box, Nie Feng broke out in a cold sweat. Now that the 40,000 medicinal herbs were all gone, even if he had the energy to continue refining pills, he didn't have the money to buy so many medicinal herbs. At this moment, Nie Feng felt so wronged that he almost cried. Chapter 329. After the explosion of the Mansion of the Dead, Lu Wu didn't immediately start the restoration of the Mansion of the Dead. Lu Wu had thought about it carefully before doing so. After all, the crisis of the land of the 9 luminaries had not been resolved yet. The difference in strength was obvious. It was easy to rebuild the Mansion of the Dead, but it was too difficult to defend it. It was very likely that the land of the 9 luminaries would be invaded again. Therefore, Lu Wu simply activated the random resurrection mode of Naraka for the players. Although it couldn't unite the players' strength, it could make them invulnerable. Moreover, Lu Wu also gave the players hope by activating an ultimate mission. After the players conquered the land of the 9 luminaries, the Mansion of the Dead would be officially restored. The restoration mission of the Mansion of the Dead and the unlocking mission of the NPC resurrection undoubtedly excited the players because it meant that they could regain everything they had lost by winning the war against the land of the 9 luminaries. Therefore, the players were extremely serious about conquering the land of the 9 luminaries. Moreover, apart from regaining everything they had lost, they could also reap huge benefits from this war. Apart from soul coins, the rich spiritual mines in the land of the 9 luminaries were also coveted by the Baki players. At this stage, the profession advancement of the blacksmith had been fully activated. Spiritual mines had become a more scarce consumable item than spiritual materials. Therefore, conquering the land of the 9 luminaries was crucial to the development of the players. Hatred and benefits were the driving force for the players to fight against the land of the 9 luminaries. To motivate the players, Lu Wu also activated the Team Resurrection Point leaderboard. He also stated that the top 10,000 teams would receive a special title as a reward after the end of this mission. The destruction of the Mansion of the Dead and the death of the NPCs had given the players nothing to worry about. At this moment, the crazy side of the 4th Calamity Legion was displayed once again. With the team as the base, they began to attack the land of the 9 luminaries non-stop for 24 hours. At this time, in the south of the land of the 9 luminaries, the Myth Guild led by Gu Yu was ambushing the frontline stronghold of the 9 luminaries. Although they didn't have any advantage in terms of numbers, the members of the Myth Guild had great teamwork and complemented each other. This brought a lot of pressure to the soldiers of the 9 luminaries who were stationed at the stronghold. Even if they could retreat for a while, the 1,000-man team would come again in a few hours, making them miserable. As more and more soldiers died, the stronghold was slowly being eroded. At the Boiling Valley station in the west of the land of the 9 luminaries, 2 figures were moving around the station like ghosts. Whenever they found an opportunity to attack, Murphy and little Pomelo would jump out from the shadows and give their enemies a fatal blow. Even though the death of the soldiers had alerted the garrison troops in the base, in the face of little Pomelo and Murphy's flawless assassination, even the few ghost commander-level commanders in the base had no way to deal with it. They could not find any traces of the assassins at all, and could only continue to withdraw into the defensive perimeter of the base. At the western border of the land of the 9 luminaries, Ao Jian wielded 9 swords at once. The piercing sword Qi created a storm of swords with him as the center. With such a violent attack, he continuously reaped the lives of his enemies and killed all the members of the lookout team stationed at the western border. In the hills to the east of the land of the 9 luminaries, Tang Mu danced with the flow of time as he was besieged by the soldiers of the supply escort team. He reaped the lives of his enemies in such a gorgeous manner. Even though it was a massacre, it did not feel bloody at all. The blood of the enemies was like blooming flowers, sending their own blessings to their dance. The supply escort team of more than 10 people did not last long before they all fell under the gorgeous attack. Looking at the boxes of spiritual ores, Tang Mu smiled because he needed the support of the spiritual ores to level up his flow of time. This was what he needed the most apart from experience points. In addition, Qi Ming, Yi Shuer Chenziu, Lu Chai, and countless other players were using their own methods to declare the arrival of the 4th disaster to the land of the 9 luminaries. Land of the 9 luminaries, Dark Heaven Pavilion. It was still a familiar scene, except that 2 of the seats had lost their owners. The rest of the 7 brothers were very quiet. Sun's death was a huge blow to them. Originally, they thought that with the strength of the Ghost Emperor's son in the early stage and the military support they sent out, it would be more than enough to take down Beiki. However, the outcome was beyond their expectations. Even though they won, they paid a heavy price. They had endured for tens of thousands of years, but in just a few months, 2 of their brothers had passed away. Obviously, they could not accept this fact. I really want to know how 3rd brother died. With his strength, even if he met an enemy that he could not defeat, he should have no problem escaping. Xing Yao's gaze swept across the few brothers present as he asked with a gloomy face. I've asked the deputy commander who led the team. No other forces appeared in the battle with Beiki this time. Moreover, if a strong enemy did appear, why did the soldiers come out unscathed? Only 3rd brother died. Flame's eyes flashed with anger as he spoke in a low voice. Only Lai Shan, only he has the strength to kill 3rd brother. Jin Yao gritted his teeth as he heard that. After listening to his brother's analysis, Xing Yao suddenly snorted coldly. It can't be Lai Shan. Based on my understanding of Lai Shan, there's no way he would only kill the glorious son if he really did it. With his personality, he would definitely kill every single one of the 9 luminaries' army. There must be other reasons. The deputy commander of this expedition mentioned that the entire mansion of the dead had been reduced to ruins in this battle. At that time, it was 3rd brother who led a group of soldiers to launch a surprise attack on the mansion of the dead. Everything was supposed to be very successful. Along the way, the forces of Beiki chose to retreat because of the loss of the Mansion of the Dead. But that's where the problem lies. Why was the Mansion of the Dead, which was supposed to be taken down by 3rd brother, suddenly destroyed? Since all the soldiers who went with 3rd brother to the Mansion of the Dead are dead, we can't find out what happened in the Mansion of the Dead at that time. Shui Yao, who had been silent all this while, suddenly analyzed. Could it be that apart from Lai Shan, there's another powerful guardian hidden in Beiki? It can't be a guardian. You have to understand that even if a guardian of Beiki like Lai Shan attacked, It's impossible for him to destroy the entire mansion of the dead. There must be someone else. Xing Yao's words made the brothers fall into silence again. Yes, if it was a guardian who helped the forces of Beiki defend against foreign enemies, then why did he destroy the mansion of the dead? But if it wasn't an existence who helped Beiki defend against foreign enemies, then why did he kill Sun? Sun's strength had already reached the Ghost Emperor realm. The enemy who could make him stay and kill him must be extremely powerful. The 9 luminaries' brothers felt that they had never offended such a terrifying existence. Even when Lai Shan was still around, they chose to befriend him instead of making him their enemy. They had climbed to the pinnacle of power in the underworld step by step, so they knew very well how to conduct themselves and avoid danger. All the problems seemed extremely contradictory. Just like the players, the 9 luminaries' brothers felt that something was wrong the more they thought about it, but they couldn't figure out what the problem was. Finally, His Excellency Xing Yao couldn't sit still anymore. He decided to investigate it himself, and at the same time, he asked his brothers to prepare the military force to go to Beiki after he returned. At this stage, the constant harassment from the forces of Beiki had pushed them to the limit. Since the war had already begun, they might as well go all out. His Excellency Xing Yao was already prepared to lead the army to attack. After giving the order to prepare for war, His Excellency Xing Yao flew out of the Dark Heaven Pavilion and headed straight for Beiki. Sun's death was too strange. Before attacking Beiki, Xing Yao felt that it was better for him to figure out the situation, in case there was an unexpected situation that he couldn't handle. After flying for a few hours, Xing Yao's figure appeared in the sky above the mansion of the dead. Looking at the huge crater below him, Xing Yao's falling figure froze as he felt the aura of a precept. It was the power of the dark precept. Although it was very thin, Xing Yao still noticed it instantly. Moreover, the aura of the dark precept came from the crater below him. After staring at the crater in silence for a while, Xing Yao's figure flashed as he turned around and flew toward the land of the 9 luminaries. At this moment, Xing Yao had a guess. Sun's death might have something to do with the deities of the underworld. The power of the dark precept was obviously not something that a ghost emperor realm like them could fully master. However, the place where Sun died had a thin aura left after the explosion of the dark precept. All of this made Xing Yao suspicious. However, Xing Yao was sure that Sun had never offended a deity-level powerhouse before. There was no doubt about that. After all, how could he still be alive and well if he had offended a deity? Hence, Xing Yao's guess was that Sun's death was related to a deity who happened to pass by the mansion of the dead. For some reason, Sun had angered this deity who had mastered the power of the dark precept. Hence, he took action and wiped out the entire mansion of the dead. This conclusion could also be verified by the fact that Yu Yao had successfully become His Excellency of Beiki. If Beiki really had such a powerful guardian in the dark, why didn't he take action when Yu Yao became His Excellency? With this conjecture, Xing Yao's mood became extremely complicated. The strong desire to avenge Ri Yao in his heart gradually faded away. Although Sun was his brother, there was no chance of winning against a deity even if all the forces in the land of the 9 luminaries joined forces. This was not revenge, but death. While he was thinking, Xing Yao flew faster and faster. After returning to the Dark Heaven Pavilion, Xing Yao told his brothers about his speculation when they questioned him. His brothers' reaction was the same as Xing Yao's. They fell into silence because they clearly understood that it was too unrealistic to seek revenge from the deity of the underworld. They couldn't do it at all. "Big brother, what about Beiki?" Hui Yao couldn't help but ask. Maybe the deity was just passing by. He can't be the guardian of Beiki. Otherwise, Yu Yao wouldn't have become His Excellency so easily. So, we'll continue with our plan and attack Beiki. Upon hearing Xing Yao's words, the remaining 6 brothers nodded their heads vigorously. They only had one thought in mind now, and that was to attack Beiki and use the blood of all the living beings in Beiki to comfort their two deceased brothers. Although all of this had nothing to do with the forces of Beiki, Yu Yaoan's son had died for the sake of becoming His Excellency of Beiki. At this moment, Beiki had become an eyesore in the eyes of the 9 brothers. After that, the brothers left and began to deploy their troops, preparing to attack Beiki. The news of the land of the 9 luminaries preparing for war and preparing for another attack soon spread among the players. Faced with the possibility of another invasion, the players didn't respond this time. Now that the Mansion of the Dead had been lost, it didn't matter to the players whether the 9 luminaries' army came or not. What they had to do was to use their advantage to wear down the 9 luminaries' army and build up their advantage bit by bit until they were strong enough to swallow the 9 luminaries. Therefore, when the 9 luminaries' army arrived in Beiki again, they realized that no force in Beiki came to stop them. Taking advantage of the fact that the land of the 9 luminaries' defense was weak, the players launched a frenzied attack. Chapter 330. While the players of Beiki and the land of the 9 luminaries were engaged in a fierce battle, the land of Tsangshu in the north was also engaged in a fierce battle. At the center of the land of Tsangshu, the war between the Yuanshu army and the Evil King army had just come to an end, and both armies had begun to retreat. However, the Evil King, who led the army into battle, did not return to the ruins where he was stationed. Instead, he followed the players to the Hidden Dragon Village. During this period of time, they had fought many battles with the Yuanshu army. At this time, the Evil King was more and more satisfied with the players. He was proud to have such a fearless army. It was also because of the existence of the players that the Yuanshu army's attacks had failed time and time again. It could be said that the player clan had become famous in the land of Tsangshu. Their fearless fighting style had terrified many of the Yuanshu army's soldiers. Although he was satisfied with the loyal player clan, the Evil King noticed something unusual about the player clan as he interacted more with the players. He clearly remembered that Li Xing had told him that the player clan's special talent was the ability to resurrect 3 times on the altar. Although the Evil King was surprised by such a strange ability, he did not doubt it. Moreover, he had also studied the resurrection altar of the player clan and did not find anything special about it. However, after a few months, the Evil King found another strange thing about the player clan. Although he did not count them, the Evil King felt that the number of the player clan was increasing. He initially thought it was an illusion until one day, when he really counted with his divine sense. On the first day, the player clan had an increase of 30,000 people. On the second day, the player clan had an increase of 50,000 people. On the third day, the player clan had an increase of 30,000 people. On the second day, after a battle with the Yuanshu army, not only did the members of the player clan not decrease, but there were also nearly 500,000 more people. On that day, there were more new people because of the publicity from Company 173. The Evil King was completely dumbfounded. How did the number of players increase? What's going on? The Evil King could understand if the player clan's reproduction ability was fast, but it couldn't be that fast. There were less than 9 million players, but there were 500,000 more in one night. Therefore, the Evil King, who realized that something was wrong, decided to go to the Hidden Dragon Village again after the battle to find out the truth behind this strange thing. The Evil King learned from Li Xing that the resurrection time of the player clan was 3 hours. Hence, the Evil King hid secretly and began to observe the situation of the players in Hidden Dragon Village. In fact, the Evil King trusted the player clan very much. After countless battles with the Yuanshu army, the player clan had proven themselves and won his respect. He was the Evil King, the incarnation of the evil god's evil thoughts. He didn't have complicated emotions, and his understanding of many things was actually very simple and direct. However, the player's hot-blooded and fearless fighting style had caught the Evil King's attention, and they gradually developed feelings for each other. The Evil King's curiosity was the only reason he was investigating the player clan. He had some of the heretic god's memory fragments in his mind. Although they weren't very complete, they allowed Diablo to understand the composition and operation of the underworld better than most people. Therefore, the evil king found the existence of such a magical player clan a little unbelievable. He even felt that it was somewhat against the laws of the underworld. For example, one's soul power would not dissipate after death, or one would be reborn at another location after death. To find out the reason, Evil King lurked in Hidden Dragon Village for 1 day and 1 night, and after he did some calculations, he discovered that the number of players had increased again. After all, they had just experienced a great battle with the Yuenshu army in the demonic realm yesterday. Although the players had 3 chances to be resurrected, they had experienced so many wars. Logically speaking, most of the players should have died a long time ago. Why were there still so many of them? The evil king was completely dumbfounded. Driven by curiosity, the evil king prepared to conduct an experiment. On this day, McCrae, who had just gotten online, was about to call his friends to catch an earth dragon at the Hidden Dragon Swamp as usual. Due to the gradual increase of new players in the European server and the influence of the European server's first night, Reinhardt, there were more and more players playing as knight. As a result, mounts had become a best-selling product in the European server. High-level players catching mounts and selling them to newbie players had become an effective way to earn soul coins, and that was exactly what McCrae was doing. At this moment, McCrae was really glad that he had played this game with Reinhardt. Although he wasn't as strong as Reinhardt, he was doing pretty well in the game with his years of experience playing the game and being among the first batch of players. In addition to selling some soul coins to maintain his living expenses, McCrae had also rekindled his passion for the game that he once had. He invested the rest of his soul coins into the game in exchange for his own growth. Due to the current environment in the land of Tsangshu, there was basically a small skirmish every day and a big battle every 3 days. Consumable items were very popular. Although the mounts that were tamed by the knight profession could be resurrected. However, many low-level knights did not have the ability to resurrect their mounts before they had mastered taming skills. Therefore, catching and selling mounts had become an industry in the game. Coupled with the continuous influx of new players, this method of earning money was still very popular among the high-level players at this stage, except for the nouveau riche players. After making an appointment to meet his friends in the game at the Hidden Dragon Swamp, McCrae bought some replenishing potions in the shop and then walked out of the Hidden Dragon Village. However, as soon as McCrae walked out of the Hidden Dragon Village, he saw a gust of black wind blowing toward him and instantly swept him into the air. McCrae was shocked and struggled to get away. However, the raging black wind became more and more violent, and soon, red words began to appear on top of his head. 293-383-476. Not long after, McCrae was killed by the black wind. Looking at the gradually dimming scene, McCrae was completely dumbfounded. He subconsciously looked at the kill notification. You have been killed by the evil king. After seeing the cause of his death, McCrae was even more confused. He could not understand why the evil king wanted to kill him. After all, the players and the evil king were now on the same side. After pondering for a moment, McCrae came to a conclusion that the old evil king might have accidentally hurt him while experimenting with some ability. At this time, McCrae felt that this was the only reason that could explain it. After all, he had never offended the evil king. Although it was very depressing, McCrae could only accept it. After all, he was just an insignificant player. It was unrealistic to seek revenge from the evil king. 3 hours later, McCrae, who was online again, walked out of the Hidden Dragon Village and headed toward the Hidden Dragon Swamp. At this time, McCrae still believed that the previous death was an accident. If the evil king had massacred the village entrance, the forum would have been turned upside down. How could there be no movement at all? However, before McCrae could run far from the village entrance, a gust of black wind came again and swept him up into the sky. This frightened McCrae, and he could not help but start howling. "Evil King! Lord Evil King, stop!" You know it's me?" The Evil King, who was hiding in the dark, looked surprised. His figure slowly appeared in front of McCrae. "Lord Evil King, I didn't offend you, did I?" Looking at the terrified McCrae, the Evil King also felt a little headache. He did not know how he had given himself away. Such a hidden assassination could actually be exposed. However, the players were his subordinates after all. Since he had been discovered, it would be a little unreasonable to attack again. But at this time, the Evil King's curiosity had not been satisfied. It was very uncomfortable. "Lord Evil King, did you make a mistake? Let me go!" McCrae shouted with a wronged expression. "Oh yes, I made a mistake. I'll let you go now." The Evil King nodded in realization and continued the excuse given by McCrae. He then waved his hand and the black wind dissipated. Then, McCrae fell straight from the sky hundreds of meters high. McCrae was speechless. This time, the death made McCrae feel very aggrieved. He just shouted for him to let go, but he did not expect the Evil King to let him go so straightforwardly. F***CK, that's hundreds of meters high. Don't you know how to handle it with care, bastard? Also, don't you know how to apologize when you've made a mistake? Omitted. After exiting the game, McCrae could not help but curse. Although the Evil King killed him for the second time, McCrae still did not think that the Evil King was deliberately targeting him because he had no enmity with the Evil King, let alone any interaction. This was something that McCrae was certain of. Feeling insecure, McCrae began to check the official forum during the resurrection cooldown period. After browsing through the official forum posts, McCrae found that the other players did not encounter such a situation. This made him even more certain that the Evil King must have made a mistake. So, 3 hours later, he entered the game again. This time, McCrae shrank in the village for a long time, but in the end, he still bravely walked out of the hidden dragon village. After all, staying in the village was not a solution. After walking for hundreds of meters, McCrae, who was still not swept away by the black wind, was finally relieved. However, at this moment the black wind appeared again. Looking at the black wind, McCrae wailed, "Evil King, why are you targeting me?" "Because you first walked out of the village with your left foot." The Evil King, who could no longer find an excuse to kill, could only answer this way. Chapter 331. Recently, something happened on the European servers forum that caused a heated discussion among many players. It was caused by a post made by a player on the forum. "Help! I was killed by the Evil King 4 times, a total of 4 times. Have any of you experienced the same thing? I'm still the only one. I'm going to faint from crying. OP, it's noon McCrae." Attached is a screenshot of the kill. Content. After being killed by the Evil King 4 times in a row, McCrae almost had a mental breakdown. He felt that he was rather well behaved in the game and had never offended anyone. On the battlefield, he even killed his enemies fearlessly for soul coins. Why was he targeted by the Evil King now? Unable to figure it out, McCrae could only seek help from the players on the forum. After all, the Evil King was their boss now. With his abilities, there was no way he could deal with him. The players on the forum were shocked to see what happened to McCrae. They began to ask him what had happened and even questioned if he had done anything to offend the Evil King. In the face of the players' doubts, McCrae repeatedly promised that he had never done anything out of line. He even specifically explained his daily schedule. McCrae's assurance made many players start to believe what he said. However, the players had also come into contact with the Evil King. Although they did not know him well, they were aware of his personality. The player clan could be said to be the most important subordinate force to the Evil King. Therefore, the Evil King's killing of McCrae was a little unusual to the players. For a moment, the players made all sorts of speculations. Some players even brought up the conspiracy theory of the evil king. In short, the European servers' forum was in an uproar. Naturally, this matter also attracted Li Xing's attention. At this time, Li Xing's friend list was jumping with many messages, basically asking him what was going on. As Li Xing was the player clan leader who was directly connected to the evil king, he was the only one who could handle this matter. After thinking for a moment, Li Xing decided to go to the ruins to ask the evil king. 3 hours later, Li Xing's figure appeared in the ruins. His arrival attracted the attention of the guards, who immediately stepped forward to stop Li Xing. However, after seeing Li Xing's appearance through the bonfire at the side, the guards consciously retreated and even bowed their heads respectfully to Li Xing. After several battles with Yuanxu's army, the player clan had also won their respect. As Li Xing was the clan leader of the player clan and the most valued subordinate of the evil king, they naturally did not dare to neglect him. After Li Xing nodded slightly, he walked past the 4 guards and headed to the center of the ruins where the evil king was. It was unknown when the ruins in the central area had been built. Towering stone pillars surrounded a palace. Because these stone pillars had been weathered, it looked like the entire palace would collapse at any time. Li Xing stepped into the ruins of the palace, glanced around and said, "I'm not sure if I'll be able to find you. Boss Yewang, I'm coming." After saying that, Li Xing waited. A moment later, the surroundings were filled with a black, evil wind. The figure of the evil king gradually condensed in the stone hall. From blurry to clear, he appeared in front of Li Xing. "Why are you looking for me, Li Xing?" Diablo looked at Li Xing and asked with a faint smile. Seeing the evil king, Li Xing also felt a headache. However, it was better to clarify this matter, so he said, "Boss, what's going on lately? Did my clansmen offend you in any way?" Although that was what Li Xing said, the meaning behind his words was clear. He was asking why the evil king wanted to kill McCrae. Upon hearing this, the evil king was silent for a moment. Then, he said slowly, "To be honest, ever since you guys pledged your loyalty to me, I have never doubted your loyalty. In fact, you guys have proven your loyalty. However, there are a few things that I don't understand." Li Xing frowned slightly. "Boss, what are your doubts? Is it related to this matter?" The evil king nodded. "I clearly remember that you once told me that the player clan's talent is to resurrect 3 times at the altar, right?" Upon hearing this, Li Xing's heart tightened. He already understood why the evil king would do that. "I never doubted it before, but the increase in the number of the player clan is indeed abnormal. I didn't pay attention to it before, but after paying attention, I realized that after every war with Yuanxu, the number of the player clan has never decreased. Instead, it has been increasing. This is the first point, the problem of the number of your clansmen. Perhaps you can tell me that the player clan has a particularly strong reproductive ability, and I can accept that point of view. Then, let me talk about the second point, the problem of the strength of the player clan. Due to the problem of the number of clansmen, I noticed something when I began to secretly investigate the player clan. I found that the strength of your clansmen seems to be constantly increasing, and it's an all-round improvement. This can be seen from the few wars with Yuanxu's army. Apart from strength, I also noticed that although the player clan was fearless in battle at first, your ability to adapt to war was not strong. I even saw your clansmen vomiting because of the discomfort after a battle. This behavior is more like that of a newbie on the battlefield, and not the behavior of a clan that has long been accustomed to war. At that time, I didn't investigate further, but this discomfort gradually decreased as the number of wars increased. It seems that the player clan has adapted to war. This is a little strange. Logically speaking, the player clan should have experienced countless battles after existing in this region for so long. Why are you just starting to adapt to war now? This is the second point, the problem of the improvement of the strength of your clansmen and their performance in battle. With that, The evil king smiled faintly and stared at Li Xing. Do you have anything to explain about these 2 points? Li Xing didn't answer, but his heart was pounding. Although he knew that the evil king would find out, he didn't expect it to be so soon. He already had a premonition of what was going to happen next. Seeing that Li Xing was silent, the evil king smiled again and said, "The 3rd point is what you personally admitted to me back then. Every player clan has 3 chances to resurrect. There are too many suspicious points that made me doubt the authenticity of the so-called 3 resurrections. So, I found a player to conduct an experiment. This is also the answer you want. Why did I kill your clansmen?" At this time, Li Xing finally understood why the evil king attacked McCrae for no reason. Obviously, McCrae was unlucky enough to become the evil king's experimental target. At this time, the evil king continued, "Do you still remember the first battle between you and Yuanchu's army? At that time, your entire army was wiped out. Logically speaking, every member of the player clan should have lost 1 chance to resurrect. So, when I killed him for the 2nd time and saw him resurrect, I was already suspicious. But I believed in you, and I trusted you very much. So, I continued this experiment and killed him 4 times. After finishing, the evil king looked at Li Xing and smiled. "Li Xing, you've let me down. In order to nurture you, I once gave you many treasures left behind by the evil god and taught you many combat skills. Although you are my subordinates, I, the evil king, believe that I have never let you down. Yes, I, the evil king, am only a wisp of evil thoughts. I don't have a real body and am different from you. But I am very happy to be with you because I realized that my emotions are getting richer and richer. So, I am very grateful to the player clan." The evil king paused. "Especially you, Li Xing. Compared to subordinates, I think calling us friends is more suitable for our relationship. But why did you lie to me? Can you give me an explanation? Do you know, when I came up with these conclusions, I didn't look for you, nor did I do anything drastic. I was waiting for the day when you truly acknowledge me as the evil king and tell me the truth. But now that you've come to me, I don't mind telling you the answer." Looking at the evil king whose eyes were glowing fiercely, Li Xing had mixed feelings. Just as the evil king said, he had never let the player clan down, but they had always been using the evil king. This made Li Xing feel a little guilty. He still remembered clearly that the evil king once said to him in a casual conversation that he never cared about being an abyssal prefect, let alone the life and death of others. The reason why he wanted to defeat Yuanchu and become the abyssal prefect was just to find something exciting to do. Just as the evil king said, he was just a wisp of evil thoughts. He didn't have any complicated emotions, so what he liked to do the most was to let himself be like those living creatures, to have emotional fluctuations. Fighting with Yuanchu for the position of His Excellency was just something that the evil king did to pursue excitement. The evil king also said that he admired the player clan because the player clan's desperate battle with Yuanchu's army in the demonic realm ignited his hot-blooded emotions that he had never felt before. The evil king also promised him that even if he, Li Xing, died one day, he would protect the player clan and continue to exist. The evil king even said that if he really won the position of His Excellency one day, he might let the descendants of the player clan inherit the position. Li Xing had always seen the evil king's sincerity towards the player clan, so he didn't know how to explain the evil king's words. He didn't even know how to face the evil king. The evil king just looked at the silent Li Xing, waiting for his reply. Li Xing stood there with a complicated expression and didn't speak for a long time. "Go back. It's not too late to tell me when you've thought it through. I've said it before, I, the evil king, have always believed in you." Hearing this, Li Xing's body trembled and he looked at the evil king in disbelief. "The next time you come up with a better reason. At least it can fool me," the evil king said again. You've forgiven me?" Li Xing stuttered. "I've said that I've always believed in you, and you've always called me boss. I, the evil king, acknowledge that. Although you lied to me, your player clan has never betrayed me, so there's nothing to forgive or not. Although the evil king had lived for millions of years, his emotions weren't even as rich as an ordinary person's. However, after interacting with the player clan, the evil king realized that his emotions were getting richer. Therefore, in his eyes, the player clan was a completely different existence from the other subordinate forces. Although the evil king's eyes revealed a murderous glint when he said this, Li Xing could still see a trace of disappointment and unwillingness in his eyes. At this moment, the evil king was like a child who had just made a good friend. After gradually interacting with his good friend, he realized that he was the only one who was sincere while his so-called good friend had been hiding things from him. Although the truth made him angry and sad, he still didn't want to lose his friend and the player clan, Li Xing boss. Looking at the evil king, Li Xing's expression was complicated. He wanted to say something, but he held back. Whether to tell the evil king the secret of the player clan wasn't something he could decide alone. Although he was the leader of the player clan, he couldn't represent the players. If you haven't decided, go back first. Think about how to make up this flawless story, the evil king said impatiently. However, Li Xing realized that the evil king's eyes were filled with anticipation when he spoke, but it turned into disappointment in the end. Boss, I'll tell you when the time is right. You said that you've never let down our player clan, and I, Li Xing, promise you that I'll always treat you as my boss, and I'll never let you down. After saying this, Li Xing turned around and left. Looking at Li Xing's back, the murderous glint in the evil king's eyes faded, and there was only gratification in his eyes. In fact, he didn't want to hear any explanation, nor did he want to hear any lies. Although Li Xing didn't say anything, the evil king was still very gratified. At least Li Xing didn't lie to him. Especially when Li Xing said the last sentence before he left, the evil king could feel the sincerity in Li Xing's emotional fluctuations. To the evil king, these words and the sincerity were the best guarantee. Although his curiosity hadn't been satisfied, the races that could survive in the underworld would more or less have their own secrets. Although he was curious about the player clan's secret, he didn't want to know about it now. Not long after Li Xing left, the evil king's figure also disappeared. At this time, under the moonlight, a ghostly figure came from the outside world. He quietly avoided the guards and entered the stone pillar palace. Naturally, his appearance couldn't be hidden from the evil king. At this time, the evil king's figure gradually condensed along with the appearance of the black wind and appeared behind the ghostly figure. Then, he raised his hand and slapped it down. Circles of ripples appeared on the ghostly figure's body after being hit by the evil king's palm. The evil king's figure floated forward like a feather and slowly landed on the ground. "Who is it?" the evil king said coldly as he looked at the figure. "Evil king, let's have a chat," the blurry ghostly figure said with a smile. "Sneaky. I think it's better if I kill you, then extract your soul and have a chat with it." The evil king's lips curled up. In a flash, he appeared in front of the ghostly figure. He suddenly slapped his right hand down, and suddenly, a violent wind formed and swept forward. Facing the evil king's tearing wind, the ghostly figure obviously couldn't withstand it anymore and suddenly collapsed on the spot. At this time, the evil king stretched out his hand toward the area where the ghostly figure collapsed, trying to grab the person's soul. However, to the evil king's surprise, no soul was grabbed. "Evil king, this is the first time we've met. This isn't a good idea." At some point, the ghostly figure appeared behind the evil king. "Not bad." The evil king snorted coldly. He turned around and was about to attack again, but he saw the ghostly figure suddenly take a step back. After that, the shadow on the surface of the figure dissipated, revealing the real body. Looking at the child with long white hair, the evil king couldn't help but be stunned. However, he didn't let down his guard. "Who are you, little brat?" Sangshu, who was smiling and had an unfathomable attitude, instantly pulled a long face when he heard this. Chapter 332. Sangshu's expression froze when he heard the evil king calling him a brat. The evil king was also very curious because he realized that Sangshu did not seem to have a physical body and he could not sense his emotions. As the embodiment of evil thoughts, the evil king was extremely sensitive to such things. This was the first time he encountered such a situation. "Tell me why you're here, brat," the evil king asked again. The evil king would have killed Sangshu a long time ago if not for the fact that he could not see through Sangshu's strength. However, he was curious as to why Sangshu was looking for him. Although he was unhappy that the evil king called him a brat, Sangshu did not want to argue with the evil king. Moreover, his age could not be compared to the evil king who had lived for millions of years. "Evil king, didn't you want to know the secret of the player clan? I can tell you." The evil king's eyes were filled with murderous intent when he heard that. Although he was curious about the secret of the player clan was his subordinate after all. Sangshu's words had crossed the line. "I don't want to know, and I don't want you to know." The evil king's illusory body turned into a stone statue as he spoke. He quickly grew taller and put his palms together in front of his chest. The demonic true seal appeared on the evil king's forehead. Illusory tentacles appeared around the stone pillar palace and smashed down at Sangshu at the same time. Boom! The entire stone pillar palace was torn apart by the raging illusory tentacles. The palace began to collapse and Sangshu's figure was once again scattered on the spot. The evil king did not stop this time. He levitated into the air, and the demonic true seal on his forehead shone with a purple light. The illusory tentacles that were under his control grew thicker and stronger. "Destroy!" All the illusory tentacles rose into the sky with the evil king at the center, forming a true demon formation that sealed off the area. They then smashed down together once again. The ground shook and the collapsed stone pillar palace turned into ruins under the evil king's violent attack. This violent attack lasted for a total of 5 minutes, and the ground beneath the ruins had sunk by several feet. At that moment the evil king also stopped attacking, and his body slowly descended. However, a figure slowly materialized next to him at that moment. "You can't kill me, evil king." Evil king was also shocked when he saw Sangshu appear again. "What on earth are you?" The evil king was truly shocked. His true demon formation had sealed off the entire space. Even if Sangshu had the ability to hide, there was nowhere for him to hide under such an all-encompassing attack. However, Sangshu had once again reappeared unscathed. Even if he was the embodiment of evil thoughts and possessed an immortal body, he would still be injured at the very least. Therefore, Sangshu's almost non-existent form was too strange for the evil king. It was as if he did not exist at all. Sangshu smiled faintly at the horrified evil king. As Lu Wu's representative in the land of Sangshu, he had obtained partial authority over the artifact. He was not in his true form at the moment, but an incarnation formed by the Yin energy that filled the underworld. Although he did not have any combat abilities, he could recover instantly if he was destroyed. "Evil king, I have no ill intentions, nor will I harm the player clan. I'm here to discuss a condition with you." Facing the seemingly unkillable Sangshu, the evil king stared at him viciously. After a moment, he said, "Tell me, what is it?" "Oh yeah, I don't like to negotiate with people. I don't think I'll accept your condition. I can tell you the secret of the player clan, and I can even help you rebuild a complete body. However, the condition is that you must swear loyalty to me." Knowing the evil king's personality, Sangshu did not beat around the bush and stated his condition straightforwardly. "You want me to swear loyalty to you? Don't tell me, you can help me rebuild my body?" The evil king, who was about to mock Sangshu, was shocked when he heard the last sentence. The last sentence was too tempting for the evil king. The evil king's true form was only the evil thoughts of the evil god. After living for millions of years, His biggest obsession was the incompleteness of his body. Therefore, living like the creatures of the underworld was his biggest pursuit. With your evil thoughts as the soul and my abilities, I can forge a body that can perfectly fuse with you, Sangshu said with a smile. Who are you? I don't believe that you can help me build a perfect body for my evil thoughts. This can only be done by the law of the underworld, and it must be done by a deity who has mastered the law of reversal of life and death. Your strength is definitely not at the level of a deity. Although Tsangshu's words were very tempting, the evil king did not believe him at all. Me? My name has too many implications. If you don't agree to my condition, it's better if you don't know my name. Otherwise, you'll be sealed again even if you don't die. Pfft! The evil king said disdainfully. I, the evil king, am immortal. Why would I be afraid? Tell me. Sangshu shook his head helplessly. Your so-called immortality doesn't exist in the eyes of the divine state experts. They can still kill you easily. So I'm sorry, but it's for your own good and mine. If we're not on the same side, I'm sorry that I can't tell you. The evil king frowned at Sangshu's words. Then forget it. Even if you're a divine state expert, you're not worthy of my loyalty. The evil king's stubbornness made Sangshu feel helpless. He knew that the evil king still did not trust him, so he asked Lu Wu for permission to use the artifact. After getting Lu Wu's approval, the soul coins in the artifact started burning intensely. A human-like body slowly appeared in front of Tsangshu. Under Diablo's astonished gaze, the fleshly body gradually solidified amidst the burning. What was even more inconceivable was that the energy ripples emitted from the fleshly body actually resonated with his evil thoughts. Sangshu suddenly stopped when he was about to burn 2 million soul coins. Although the body was not completely built, Sangshu suddenly felt reluctant. After all, his little Ku had not been resurrected yet, so it was really painful to burn it like this. If it wasn't for the evil king's great value and the fact that he could earn more after being subdued, the extremely stingy Tsangshu would never do this. How did you do it? At this moment, the evil king was shocked by Tsangshu's mysterious means. This was because he did not sense any energy waves around him, nor did he sense any traces of the rules. However, the body in front of him was born out of thin air, and it quickly solidified without any input of energy. All of this violated the rules of the underworld. The law of conservation of energy was also applicable in the underworld. To the evil king, this body that was created out of thin air and solidified without any external force was too unbelievable. What do you think, evil king? Do you want to pledge your loyalty to me? As long as you agree, this body is yours. I'll help you perfect it so that you'll become a real living being, not just a strand of evil thoughts. Looking at the body that was built with soul power, the evil king fell into a dilemma. This was his biggest pursuit for millions of years, but he did not want to become someone else's subordinate. Hence, the idea of robbing the body came into his mind. Just when the evil king was about to make his move, he saw Tsangshu wave his hand, and the flawless body disappeared into thin air. Evil king, I know what you're thinking. I must have investigated you before I came to you. Tsangshu was still as confident as ever. I want to know why you want me to submit to you. Also, how did you know about the player clan's secret? The evil king asked unwillingly when his thoughts were seen through. Don't worry, I'm not your enemy, nor am I the player clan's enemy. As for how I know about the player clan's secret, I can't tell you because we're not on the same side yet. You can't tell me this and you can't tell me that. Then tell me what you think you can tell me. The evil king almost cursed out loud. At this moment, the rest of the forces that were stationed here and loyal to the evil king heard the commotion and thought that there was an enemy invasion. They quickly gathered around. Lord Evil King. A ghost king walked out from the crowd. He glanced at the ruined stone pillar palace, then looked at Tsangshu cautiously. Get lost. All of you. The evil king turned around and shouted angrily. The Ghost King's expression froze when he heard the Evil King's shout. He then quickly retreated with his subordinate. After ordering his subordinates to retreat, the Evil King turned around and glared at Sangshu fiercely. Change your conditions. I'll agree to any other condition. Jewel? A cultivation method that's close to God? I have all of them. Sangshu shook his head calmly. I told you, I only want you to submit to me. If you agree, you'll get the body that you've been dreaming of. You'll also know about the player clan secret and even integrate into the player clan. What? Integrate into the player clan? The Evil King suddenly felt that something was amiss. That's right. I think you've discovered the secret of the player clan's immortality. That's what it means to be immortal, and you can become one too. What's your relationship with the player clan? I can say that we're close, but they've never known about my existence, Sangshu answered honestly. Chess player. The Evil King was stunned. Sangshu was also confused when he heard the word chess player. What chess player? A chess player who uses living beings as chess pieces and the heavens and earth as a game. He creates a race and secretly controls their future. He's a chess player, or you can call him a chess player. The Evil King continued. Is there such a chess player? Sangshu was stunned. He realized that the Evil King seemed to have misunderstood something. Yes, the evil god used to be a chess player, but he lost a game against a certain deity. The Evil King answered immediately. Sangshu waved his hand helplessly. I'm really not a chess player. To tell you the truth, I'm not the one you should be loyal to, but the one behind me. However, his existence is much more powerful than a chess player. Anyway, it's up to you whether you're willing or not. However, I can assure you that you'll no longer be a strand of evil thoughts after you've perfectly integrated with this body. The realm that you've been stuck in for millions of years will no longer be your shackles. In other words, you can still cultivate and even become a deity. How? How is this possible? Unless the one behind you is the Great Emperor? However, what Evil King could not understand was that if it was really the Great Emperor, why would he take a liking to him? After all, he was just a strand of evil thoughts. Even an ancient god like the evil god was just an ant in the eyes of the Great Emperor because the Great Emperor was the ruler of the underworld. The Evil King would not have cared if Sangshu had said this before. However, after witnessing Sangshu's methods, he really believed it now. The temptation was so great that the Evil King could not resist.